Gentlemen and ladies, welcome back to the Lore Lodge official podcast, which is now the Lore Lads on Spotify. If you're confused about where the show went, it's there. We made that change for a reason. We're bringing the normal show to Spotify as well. But the more important announcement today is that we are joined by two guests. We have two horror narrators who I have had the pleasure of listening to over the last couple of years. So I wanted to introduce you guys. For those who don't know, Swamp Dweller and Darkness Prevails. Will you guys tell everybody who you are, what you're about?
Yeah, go ahead, Swamp.
Well, thank you so much, Darkness, you gentlemen. I'm Swamp Dweller. I read scary stories that are sent to me by the viewers of the show. Pretty much everything I cover is based in the great outdoors. So we do everything from missing people's cases in the woods to Bigfoot jumping out and stealing your tractor to people being very creepy in the woods themselves. So pretty much anything natural and supernatural, you're going to find me talking about it in one avenue or the other.
Hell yeah.
And I'm Darkness Prevails. Good to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me on. I took the more less traveled road, you could say, where I tell stories from allegedly real people about allegedly real things like werewolves, dogman, arm wrestling a Wendigo, cheating on your wife with Skinwalker, that kind of stuff. And
Hey,
I
gotta
now
get that skin
own
wussy.
and operate, Skin Wussy. I own and operate a small podcast network called EerieCast. You can find us at EerieCast.com.
All right. Well, I think that gives us a good starting point too, because as you guys mentioned, people send in stories for you. I've listened to a smattering of the creepypasta and horror narration channels on there. That's actually what I do with most of my drives. I'll pop something on. But a lot of it is the classic, fictional stuff, the r/no sleep. You guys, you do a little bit more user submitted stuff. So when you do have something that is submitted by a real person, and we used to do this with Lore Lodge Storytime a few years ago, I don't know. I would always read it and be like, I don't know. I was sent this under the explanation that it is a real event, but I obviously was not there. I can't confirm, but I'm going to tell you the story anyway, as if it were true. So what I wanted to ask you guys, because we got some interesting submissions, what would be like some of the wildest stuff people ever gave you that they were like, this is a real thing that happened to me?
Well, I got one off the top of my head.
Sure.
This is one that was pretty famous back in the day in my early YouTube career. Some guy who apparently trained horses sent me a story where he was riding one such horse into the woods with his katana, as you do.
As one does.
When he faced down an Until Dawn style Wendigo in the woods and sliced it with his katana. He was not scared. He rode home and was proud of himself, so much so that he sent the story to me, and I quickly deleted it.
So you were not about the IRL Wendigo samurai duel?
Hell no, I'll save that for something stupid.
So when you get something, do you just kind of triage it and you're like, if this doesn't seem remotely realistic, I'm just tossing it to the wayside?
Yes, and sometimes people screw with me, I swear to God. So they'll have really good writing style and a great setup for the first 70 or 80%, and then they'll prank me at the end with something like, and then I made out with the werewolf and it had such a smooth tongue. I shit you not, I've had that happen.
Yeah, all the time.
I
feel
can't
like
say I'm shocked.
we get trolled so badly. I read this really awesome Dogman story, and then it ends basically just how Darkness just said. It's like out of nowhere, it got really sus, super fan fiction-y. I was like, I just spent 25 minutes reading this novel just to be trolled.
Swamp, are we the lol cows?
We might be.
I think so.
You guys are just getting taken for a ride.
That's true.
There's probably an entire community on 4chan that's betting on who can waste the most of your time.
Could you imagine a DraftKings section on Swamp Dweller and Darkness Prevails?
Beautiful.
Like whether or not they're going to take the bait on somebody's story.
I would love it. We got one that was, I'm trying to remember the exact details of it, but we got one that was kind of along those lines where it was like, I stayed up all night evading, I think it was the Wendigo again. People really liked stories about the Wendigo.
That and Skinwalkers.
That and Skinwalkers. Those seem to be the favorites. But we had one where somebody was like, I stayed up all night evading it. It tracked me all around my small town. And of course, I'm sitting here like, well, why would the Wendigo be tracking you around a small town? That makes no sense. That's not within their folklore. But yeah, and at the end of it, of course, they escape and it's miraculous. And I'm not going to name names. It was a long time ago, obviously, but we got a lot of that kind of thing too, where you're just like, okay, could you at least try to make this believable instead of writing bad Slenderman fan fiction? Speaking
We
of
gotta
which,
understand the mind of an 8-year-old.
yeah, yeah. It's. I mean, are you guys familiar with the Slenderman murders, or the Slenderman murder, I should say?
Yeah, it's pretty depressing.
Yeah, we covered that one a little while ago, and it was like, oh, so this kind of thing can like bleed over, and that's not even a particularly realistic sounding one. Slenderman's a pretty out there concept, but it's
Well, as you just said, you have to understand the mind of an 8-year-old.
yeah. Do you think that's like? Can you tell how old somebody is by what they've submitted?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I think I get a good estimate within about 2 paragraphs.
That's so funny.
If they're organized into paragraphs.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they have periods or not, that's a pretty good indicator.
So what about my next question? That would be, obviously there's wait, we didn't even get one from Swamp. Was that your example of craziest? Was basically the same thing, or do you have a crazier one?
Oh man, there was I remember so specifically there was a guy who like sent me this hunting story, but he prefaced with a lot of explanation points that he is a furry.
Oh,
But I didn't realize that he went hunting in his furry suit.
Oh, good lord.
So he would wear some sort of bear costume, but the bear costume was apparently hot and he tried to take it off, but the blind was small and he got stuck for like 6 hours. And he was yelling long enough that eventually his hunting partner down the way came, they're supposed to leave, and then found him in there, and he got unstuck. But that's one that just sticks out from the top of my mind. So I was like, why would you send this to me first and foremost? But that's a horror story of its own.
So he got stuck. The step furry.
Yeah. Who goes hunting in a furry costume? I
yeah,
was just
that's
kinda
what I'm
wondering
trying to
about
get.
that.
Like, I'm trying to in my head.
No, you have to think about it. You have to think about it logically. It's the perfect camouflage.
Have you seen a
ain't wrong.
fursuit? They're not realistic.
Depends what you're hunting.
Maybe that's what was going on with that Bigfoot sighting back in the late 60s.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Swamp's little story here is responsible for at least 3 sightings on my channel.
Yeah, sounds right to me.
Was Bigfoot the original furry?
Yeah, if your fursona is a gorilla,
I would read that novel.
Yeah, see, now we got to write Teddy Roosevelt Bigfoot Hunter.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, it's got to be actually be a story that we write. Make it very Brokeback Mountain. Has a romantic subplot between Sasquatch and Roosevelt.
Oh, I thought we were going to make like the rival to Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunters.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's got to have some eroticism to it in this day and age.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You guys ever get any stories that are overly over the top on that end?
Yeah, I think the more erotic ones for me are the ghost stories.
Mhm.
Women like to submit what is it, incubus or succubus? I think incubus for the
Incubus
women.
is the male.
The male version invading some women's spaces and doing some naughty things, and they tend to enjoy it. But I don't need the descriptions.
You're just sitting there like, I did not need 50 Shades of Grey for a demon.
No, if I see
It's-
succubus or incubus in the title, immediately deleting it.
It's like that one meme where the guy in the video is disgusted and he slams the door, but he has a boner the whole time.
Oh, good God.
Well, but now you've created a new one. We have to do Theodore Roosevelt or Bigfoot Hunter,
Uh-huh.
and then we have to do 50 Shades of Ghost.
50 Shades of Ghost. Oh no.
We're immediately getting this off the rails. If you
This
couldn't
is
tell.
horrible. This is
Y'all are
exactly
gonna
how I
make me
expected it to go, though.
ectoplasm.
But okay, so obviously, you guys cover a lot of allegedly real stuff. We cover a lot of real stuff that is allegedly supernatural.
That's the thing, is like we cover a lot of allegedly supernatural stuff that tends to be real.
Yeah, we're kind of the inverse of what you guys do.
We're some weird blend of the Winchesters and the Scooby Gang.
Yes, exactly. But, I have come across a few. I've had some weird experiences in my own life, and I wanted to ask you guys about that as well. But what about, is there anything that you guys have gotten that you're like, wait a minute, this sounds like a real thing?
Oh yeah, Swamp, you can start if you got something.
There was a series of stories that I got from a gentleman that was living in a cabin pretty remotely, and it seemed like he was at first dealing with what he thought was like a Bigfoot or something, just
All
kind
right.
of stalking him, making weird noises, stuff like that. And it kind of progressively got weirder to a point to where it almost felt like those Wrong Turn movies.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, this seems more like a human being kind of preying on you and messing with you and doing weird stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then turns out like a couple stories into it, he ends up, I guess, confronting somebody in the middle of the night because they tried to break into his house, and it turns out it was somebody trying to actually like murder the guy or do something weird. But it was literally just like a straight horror movie. It was just like this guy took his time, messed with this dude, did all kinds of weird stuff, and turned out to be real. And I do believe there's like an article somewhere I can find that kind of verifies that.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, that we would take a look at that, because that is wild to hear that somebody would go through that meticulous of like a horror movie style. Like, it sounds like Scream or something like that, to be able to like progressively freak someone out like that to the point where they attempted to do something along those lines. That's nuts.
Yeah, and this guy was like deep pack west too, so it's like thick woods, like no neighbors for miles and miles. I was like, that's dedication. I don't even know how that guy got out there.
That's the one thing that makes me nervous about living like somewhere like on a ranch or whatever, where it's just like you have this kind of, whether it's security or false sense of security, living in like a semi-populated area. If it's just you in a house and there's like 20 miles of nothing around you, that's like, if you're asleep, there's nothing that's happening.
Well, we just covered that with Jordan Grider.
Yeah.
I mean, have you guys heard this story at all?
I don't think so, no.
So
No,
real thing that happened in 2018. A guy named Jordan Grider. We just did a video on this. Actually, just came out on Friday.
Yep.
He goes up to a spot called the Sioux Hustler Trail, and this is in the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness in far northern Minnesota. So, but we are in, this is the territory where people are like talking about seeing the Dogman and the Wendigo and the Sasquatch, like all these different things. This is kind of a point where you get a lot of stories of each of those different kind of things, kind of creatures. He decides he wants to spend the winter camping in the wilderness in Minnesota. He's from New Mexico. This was going to go horribly no matter what happened. But nobody hears from him. He disappears in October. They can't find his campsite. They find his truck. They can't find his campsite. Nobody hears from him. And then finally in April, some of the conservation officers who are looking for the guy, they stumble across his campsite. And he's not there. What is there is a whole bunch of blood in the tent, but it's limited to the hammock and the interior of the tent right above the hammock. So they're like, okay, something weird happened here. Too much snow on the ground, 2 to 4 feet. They wait a month or so. It's late April. They come back, and as they're sorting through everything, they start finding bones, but I think they only found like 12 total. They don't specify if the bones had gnaw marks on them, but the conclusion was that the body was consumed by wolves. But there's no tears in the tent. There's no like claw marks in the hammock, and all of the blood is either on clothing, in the hammock, or on the interior of the tent. They find strips of fabric that have been cut. There's no blood on them, so it doesn't seem like they were used as bandages. The wildlife experts are like, a wolf didn't take him out of that tent. They have never come up with the cause of death. But this story, I was like, okay, that sounds very close for Wendigo. Like, I'm not saying it was, but you look at a story like that and you're like, this is a real story about a real thing that happened, and every single thing about it almost seems more supernatural than real.
Yeah.
If you had to come up with your own personal theory as to what you think actually happened, what are you leaning towards?
I think the guy was murdered. The question though is why. The explanation for him not being murdered is that he was shaving with a knife in his hammock and slit his carotid. I mean, yeah, it's possible, but who shaves in a hammock? Who shaves laying down in a hammock?
That's a level of complacency that like is kind of a little bit hard to believe.
Yeah. So, and then the idea is like, oh, well, so he sliced his neck. He stumbled out of the tent, trying to fix his neck. And then he collapsed in the snow and died. And the wolves found him and ate him a few days later. But what I was looking at, I was like, all right, well, what if instead of him slitting his own carotid, what if somebody else cut his carotid? Because all of his knives were in their sheaths. None of his knives were bloody. There was no sign of him bleeding onto anything else. So it sounds like something cut his neck while he was laying in his hammock. The only thing that could do that without dragging him out of the tent and leaving claw marks would be another person. Some people suggested mountain lions, but there aren't any known in the area. Also, they would probably scratch something off the tent. So, okay, who's out there, though? There are these private cabins out there, but nobody knew Jordan was there. So was somebody just prowling about in the forest, found a campsite, and decided to commit a murder for no reason?
Yeah, the only other thing I can think of is that he was victimized from the sense of in one of the towns that he was in prior to going out, because we know he was gathering supplies before he went out, and then it seems like he picked a campsite and then went back to town to get a few more things and then headed back. It's possible that somebody, whether it was an emotional killing, he offended somebody enough to do that, or it was a victim of circumstance. Somebody realized based on his conversation with them, or that he or she overheard, that he was going to be on his own out in the middle of the woods, strike of opportunity, something along those lines. But even that, they would have to either follow him all the way out there or know exactly where he was going.
You really would have to know exactly where he was going, because he was off a decommissioned trail.
Yeah.
So it's not like somebody could have just been walking by on the trail in mid-October.
And correct me if I'm wrong, was he ex-military? Because his truck had a Marines sticker on the back of it.
He was not ex-military, no.
Okay. But
yeah, so for me, I listened to that. I read all of it, and I spent a week researching this case, and I'm like, this is point for point the description of a Wendigo killing.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily mean, the like antlers version, but if you go through the actual folklore and historical quote unquote sightings of Wendigos, sounded point for point like what they talk about. And interestingly enough, one of the rescue squad captain for the area said it wasn't the Wendigo. And I'm like, well, why did you think it was in the first place, buddy?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's for us, that is probably the closest we've ever come to a legitimate supernatural kind of thing. Now, if you want to take the argument the Wendigo isn't technically supernatural, it's not supernatural anymore. But that was probably one of the weirdest for me.
Yep. Well, Darkness, you still haven't gone. What was your story that you had?
Over the years, I've been keeping track of all these stories I considered actually scary. Not necessarily believable, but there are a lot of believable ones to me in that stack of stories. And I was approached recently by a publisher called Quarto to put those together into a book that they published called Phantom Phenomena. And I've got it right in front of me. And the first one in that book is one of my absolute favorites, Weatherman and the Cuyahoga Valley Buzzer.
Okay.
My favorite stories of all time, the ones I believe are the most vague. All right. I prefer stories where the sighting is not direct. You're not trading blows with the Wolfman. You are seeing something you can't explain, or hearing something that is way out of the ordinary, and it chills you to the bone, leaving you to wonder. And in Weatherman and the Cuyahoga Valley Buzzer, a couple of hikers are out in the woods doing some hiking, just enjoying time with nature. And a storm is coming in, so they turn on their little weather radio. And they thought they left it on overnight because they're awakened in their tent to the sound of the the weather notice noises. And they look at the radio, and it's off. The noise isn't coming from it. It's coming from deeper in the woods, and it's getting closer to their campsite.
Oh.
And that's the story. Either something was in the woods that mimicked the sound of their radio because it had heard it the day before and was following them, or there's another person very close to their tent.
Oh, that's creepy.
That's brutal. The only thing that jumps to mind is one of those birds that's capable of replicating sounds really accurately. And, maybe there was like somebody had the Weather Channel on and it heard that the previous day, like you'd said, and was in the area and just happened to be mimicking the sound. But that's...
Did they say what day this happened?
I could check real quick.
I only ask because that's the kind of thing that when stuff comes up, for me, I'm like, all right, well, let's go check the weather report for that day. Was there an emergency alert? Okay, there was. All right, where? Dive into it and be like, okay, what could have been going on here? Because that's such a weird prank to pull on somebody.
Yeah.
And also, if it were a bird, you would think it wouldn't be getting closer and closer.
You would think.
That's one of the funny things is when these stories where you're out in the middle of a national park and no one else knows you're there but your
Mhm.
friend who's already with you. Oh, it's just probably a prank by some kids. Why are they out there?
Yeah.
Why did they know where you're at? So I my best guess too would be that bird, but that
Yeah.
would be my cope guess. Absolutely.
Yeah, because if it's not a bird, then there's
Yeah,
you're into the hills have eyes territory.
Yeah.
Which honestly, for me, like when I look at all of the scary stories that are out there, everything that I've come across, everything that we've researched for our stuff, the scariest stuff for me has really become, like you said, where it's, it sounds like it's people. Like,
Yeah.
where whatever is out there, it is another intelligent, rational predator just like you. And whether you're putting that into, the Wendigo or Sasquatch, something a little more supernatural, or something more like, Wrong Turn, that is terrifying. Those stories are the ones that really get me. And I to this day, like, get skeeved out thinking about being out alone in a place where the locals know the area much better than I do.
Right.
yeah.
The other stories that I find most believable are when it comes from someone who has seemingly very accurate experiences and descriptions of things that I would either know about or don't know about, like a job, right?
Yeah.
A job I'm not familiar with, and they seem really knowledgeable about it. But there was one I got not too long ago from someone who lived on a pig farm, and I lived on a chicken farm growing up. And every description they gave was extremely accurate to the way a farm is set up and run,
Right.
the chores they have to go about. And they saw one night when left alone in one of the buildings on that farm while their dad went to get something, they heard some chewing noises outside and went to see that a pig had been pulled out and was being chewed on by something that looked like a very large wolf on two legs.
Oh.
And that's pretty much it. This experiencer went back into the building, hid away, and had the worst fear they've ever felt, hoping that thing wouldn't come to the window and look in at them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just waited for the chewing to stop, prayed it didn't get their dad, and their dad came back, and eventually everything was fine.
Ah.
Yeah, where was this again?
A lot of these don't come with their
Okay.
locations, but I'll check this one too.
Yeah.
That's
That's just creepy. I mean, I would, if it were like Wisconsin or Michigan, I'd guess it's a Dogman story.
yeah.
But
Central Sweden.
Central Sweden.
Yeah, them Swedes, they've been seeing some dogmen.
Maybe it's the thing from what was that movie?
Ritual.
Yeah.
See, my mind, I went to somebody's LARPing as a berserker in the modern day.
Yeah, but why?
Why?
He just told a story about a furry getting trapped in a hunting blind.
Yeah, well, that I can understand.
Okay,
This
furry.
is just a hungry furry.
Furry makes more sense to you than person LARPing as a Viking.
Furry's got to
Yeah,
eat
it's
too.
2024, dude. That
That's
100% sounds more believable.
All right, well, we'll have to agree to disagree on that one. I think I'm going with Ulf Hednar on this one.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is a berserker dude. I think that tracks.
That's fair.
Right? I agree. I'm trying to think, I guess, the one next question I'd want to go with, because I'm genuinely curious about this. Have either of you ever had an experience where you were, obviously you're into the paranormal thing, you like listening to stories, you're curious, you guys are probably like me where you're skeptical about some things but superstitious about others. What is there anything that's ever happened to you where it made your skin crawl and you couldn't explain it?
Oh yeah, I mean that's kind of how I got into all this. I lived on a farm, kind of similar to Darkness Prevails here, but we were a beef farm, so totally different, totally. But pretty much, we lived in this house that was built in like 1802. The people who built it, like we found their graves randomly one day behind the barn and all that. I was like, oh, well, that's great.
Creepy.
Just all kinds of really creepy, like boot sounds, but when you're alone, you'd feel like cold breaths on you.
Mm-hmm.
Walking by the stairs above my room, there would always be like a hat man figure standing at the edge of it, and I always thought it was myself. And I was like, oh, I'm seeing something in the corner of my eye. I must just be tripping. And then one day, my little brother walked by to go into the kitchen, and I came right behind him. He's like, how'd you get down the stairs so fast? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I swear you were just at the top of the stairs. And that kind of gave me chills. And it was kind of the first time I think I ever like confirmed in my life that, oh shit, like there's other things going on here. It's not just me. And there's tons of stuff like that though. Just lots of weird experiences like that on the farm growing up, and just other places I've lived, and it's kind of what got me into it initially.
I have a similar story to that, but Darkness, what about you?
I have loads of stories. They vary a lot, but the one story that got me into narrating and the supernatural came directly from my brother.
Mm-hmm.
When he was about 9 years old, he and I would often be taken to a detail shop. Not a detail shop, it was a paint shop.
Okay.
Near the border of some woods where my dad rented the place to paint cars. And he would bring us in so he could babysit us pretty much to
Right.
take some weight off my mom's shoulders. And we would sit in the shop while he painted a car. He'd give us a gas mask or a paint mask so we didn't get high. Too bad. But my little brother was taken that day. He was given a gas mask, a paint mask, and he was not high. I can tell you that.
Okay.
And there's this shop fan. It's built into the wall. And the shop fan faced the woods. And it was slowly rotating. And in between fan blade swings, you can see the forest outside the shop. And he claims, after coming home one day, teary-eyed, and wouldn't tell his parents, or our parents, he tells me that he saw a werewolf-like creature. He said it had the snout of a wolf or a dog, but stood and had the shape of a gorilla.
All
and
right.
When he described it, he broke down crying even harder. And that part, that's what gave me chills. My brother never told stories to me.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, he's just a few years younger than me, and I'm 31 now. He still claims that that's what he saw. He doesn't think he was sleeping. He doesn't think he was high from paint. He was too scared to go outside. He doesn't know what it was, but he said it did look back at him and saw him watching through the fan blades. And that scared the ever-loving crap out of me. I never wanted to go back to that shop after that. Don't know what it was. It was very clear as day for him. So hopefully it was a Halloween like setup in freaking March, those early Halloween decorators.
That is the fact that he's still, because I'm the same way where there's like two stories that to this day, I'm 27. Well, I'm almost 27 next week, 2 weeks from now. I still, I remember things vividly, and I'm like, this is a real thing that happened to me. I know this happened. It wasn't just something that I watched go down on TV and then internalized. It was like, I really remember this happening to me. And that's just, if like a family member was asking me sincerely and was like, did this really happen? And it didn't, I would tell them. I'd be like, nah, I was just a kid. I was being silly and goofy. I mean, wait, just really quickly, where are you comfortable saying, like, generally where in the U.S. this was?
Generally, yes. Ozarks of Arkansas.
Ozarks of Arkansas. I mean, all
Way
I
up
can
in the
think is like
Northwest.
bear with mange.
Yeah, I mean,
It's funny you say that because my uncle in the same area hunted a lot,
Uh-huh.
and he tells of what he saw out there. And he said there is a flat-nosed, mangy bear in the woods that you need to watch out for. And he'd always tell my dad before he went hunting. So
Interesting.
maybe there's some kind of deformed ass bear out there scaring the frick out of people.
Well, so there's also the Fook monster is described similarly. I might be pronouncing that wrong. It might be Falk. I think it's Arkansas, but I might have my states wrong. But there's another one that's like a similar description of being like a, bipedal sort of wolf-like creature that hangs out in people's backyards. But I would wonder, like, would that be? Have you ever showed him a picture of a bear with mange and been like, hey?
No, I'll have to have AI whip up an image just to see what that would be like.
I'd be curious to see what he says, and because it would be really funny if after 20 years he's like, oh my god, you've got to be kidding.
yeah.
Swamp, did you answer this one?
Yes.
You did. Okay, I just want to make sure. Going back through I should be taking notes.
Yep.
So I guess right. So sounds like now I'm remembering. There we go. So it sounds like yours was more ghost, whereas Darkness, your brother saw something like more corporeal.
I've got more if you want to hear them.
Oh, for sure. I'm down for that.
My family is full of druggies. Meth
Okay.
heads.
Hell yeah.
That's just the area.
Well, you did say
So-
the Ozarks.
Yes. So when I was around 15, 16, no, maybe a little older, maybe 18 or 19. This is another indirect experience, but we went out one Halloween with my cousin and her boyfriend. It was my girlfriend and I. We went with them to make Halloween fun again.
Right.
But we were driving around to places that we thought were creepy to visit at night. Church after dark, very creepy. We went to a creek that wasn't lit at all under
Very
a bridge.
creaky.
Very creepy, very creaky too. Nothing was happening. Of course, when you go looking for it, it usually doesn't happen. And then we remembered a story told to us by my meth head junkie cousin. But what he experienced despite the meth freaked me the hell out. He went to a cemetery near where we lived and was getting high, I guess. I don't know. Is meth getting you high? Is that what they call it?
I assume
Yeah,
so.
100%. Yeah.
So he goes out there with a friend, gets high, and he starts to see a demon, like a little childlike demon that follows him with a forked tail and all that crap
All right.
and horns. And it's following him through the cemetery. And eventually he's like running from it, and it gets close enough to him every time he looks back that he can hear it saying, "I will follow you forever." And I guess he perma-tweaked because he says ever since that day at the cemetery, this demon has been in the corner of his room. Every time he looks in any room he's at, it's there. And he says he can't sleep without someone with him. That's why he's always dating someone. He's not married. He has to have someone in his room, whether he likes them or not, because he can see it. And I'm like, holy shit, dude, don't do meth.
Has he considered talking with a priest?
Or
He
a
needs a priest.
psychologist.
Yeah.
He needs a bunch of different people in his
Yeah.
life right now.
A whole team, a whole squad.
Perma-tweaker sounds like such a rough time.
Yeah, it sounds like half of Kensington.
Yeah, true.
We go to the cemetery at the end of our Halloween night to hope something creepy happens. But
Mhm.
when we get there, even I remember feeling a little bit too creeped out for seemingly no reason at the gate before we even enter.
Sure.
And we all decide right there, nah, we're not going in there. That seems like a bad idea.
So you spent the
So we
whole night
leave.
looking for something creepy and then turned down the creepy place? Oh my
Tail
god.
between the legs. Yep. Dick tucked, you know. Anyway, we go back home and they drop us off at our apartment. I wake up in the morning to a text at like 7:30 a.m. and it's my cousin. She's like, "Brendan, look at this." And there are pictures of child-sized handprints. I'm talking hundreds of child-sized handprints on the vehicle we were riding in. And that scared me pretty bad. I was like, those don't even look like your kids' hands.
That's
And they're
terrifying.
too tall.
Yeah.
They weren't there the day before. We were around that car before the sun went down. They weren't there. Unless she went out there, was picking up kids, throwing them on top all over the place. Slap this car, motherfucker, so I can scare my cousin. But I don't believe she'd do that. So that's very, very strange.
Yeah, those ones too. Stories where it's like, somebody was here. Ugh. Ugh.
Oh, I've got one that's kind of like
Oh, you
that.
do?
Oh, yeah.
Hit us with it, man.
So for those who aren't aware, my other buddy, his name's Rex. His family has some land up in northeastern Pennsylvania, and they have what's called a yurt up there. And for those who are not familiar, it's essentially between a tent and a cabin. It's like a permanent tent with like wooden structure, but it is just tarp all around it. And
Real Mongol hours.
yes, real Mongol hours. And we always joke up there. We're like, how much money would it take? Because the yurt is on like a 12-acre lake.
Mhm.
And we always joke when we're up there. It's like, how much money would it take for you to walk around the trail around this lake at night with no flashlight? And we always say, we're like, nothing. Like, you couldn't do it. It's way too creepy. Like, armed or not. Like,
All right, so we're bringing back donation goals.
yeah. It's like, you're just sitting there. It's like, you're getting touched if you try and do it. Like, it's just not working out well for
It's
anybody.
like going to a Diddy party.
Yeah, exactly. So one night, because like it's when you're up there and you're sleeping in the yurt, it is dead calm.
Mhm.
It is so quiet up there and so dark. I mean, it's a great place to see the stars when there's no moon out, but it is like eerily quiet no matter what time of year it is. And of course, all of the beds are along the outside of like the very edge of the yurt.
Right.
And so one night I'm sleeping in this tent. It's just Rex and I. And I'm sleeping.
Cuddling, I assume.
Exactly. Yeah, no, we're on opposite sides. That's the problem. So I'm in this one bed, and there's the window right next to me, and it's basically just like a clear plastic window.
Mhm.
and I'm like trying to sleep and whatnot, and I'm just getting this horrible feeling. And it must have been, I must have been asleep and dreamt it, but the nightmare was what was happening in real life, in the sense of I was in the bed by the window in the yurt that night, and I look out the window and there's a humanoid figure just in silhouette, just standing there staring at me. And I could see like two glints of eyes. Like I couldn't see the eyes, but I could see like just a little bit of light reflecting off of each, just staring directly down at me. And then all of a sudden the figure was in the tent on top of me, holding me down.
Oh, so you had a straight up like sleep paralysis demon situation.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Did you move?
No,
You got
Oh, you had sleep paralysis.
Yeah, no.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, it was terrible. I could not move. I was so scared. I woke up and I could not look at the window. I grabbed the biggest knife in there that I could find, put it under my pillow, and just slept with my hand on it the whole night. I was like, we're not letting that happen again.
It's just, the sleep paralysis demon. You were going to kill it with a knife while you
no
couldn't
more
move.
alien abduction for you.
No.
It was bad. That was the craziest thing that's ever happened to me personally.
Yeah, that's... how did you not bring that? Was that recent?
No, this was years ago. I swear I brought it up.
Why did you not bring this up when we did an entire episode on sleep paralysis demons?
I think I thought I did.
I don't think you did. I've never heard this story before.
I've definitely said it on the show. It may have just like gone over your head
Maybe.
because you were focusing on something else.
Maybe. Gee. Okay. All right.
I also never really called it a sleep paralysis demon.
That's fair.
I just like I've always referred to it as, oh, I had a really bad nightmare kind of deal.
Yeah. No. I have never had sleep paralysis, and I really hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
I have had one bout of sleep paralysis back when I was trying to lucid dream a lot.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was
So
like,
you were asking
I
for
was
it.
through I was asking for it. I remember it very vividly. I know it's not a demon. It was
Yeah.
my mind. But what happened was I was taking a nap midday. I laid on my back, and I was trying to do some freaking lucid dreaming tricks to make it activate. But what happened was I was just still and motionless when I started to hear my own voice in the room somewhere saying, "Stab yourself." Over and over. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm waking up as soon as I can. And that's about it for that.
Sleep schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
It is. Don't listen to it.
That's brutal.
Maybe that's what happened to the Yuba County Five.
Oh yeah, what's the one story where it might be the one guy?
Oh, the Ketty Cabin murders? Oh, I looked into that one. The reason we aren't doing the Ketty Cabin murders is because it is one of those stories where it is so blatantly obvious what happened, and the entire reason that nobody went to prison is that the sheriff was best friends with the prime suspect.
Oh, really?
Like, oh boy. Yeah, like he all but admitted to it.
Who?
The prime suspect.
Okay.
I think his last name was Smart. I think Martin Smart, something like that.
Got it.
Not very smart.
No, but it's
Martin Smart was a little bit
yeah.
dumb.
We will cover that one. It's just I needed more time for it because there's a whole alternate theory about what happened that alleges more people were involved, and I kind of agree that it looks like, at the very least, one more person was involved who was not implicated. But I need more time. Interestingly enough, that website is now down. It gets a 403 error gateway error.
Interesting.
So I have to use Wayback Machine, which has been frustrating because for those of you who don't know, the Internet Archive was the victim of a DDoS attack recently, as well as some data theft. But the more important aspect was the fact that it shut the entire Internet Archive down for a week. And even now, Open Library isn't back up. I use Open Library for a ton of things. It is a much more usable version of the Library of Congress. Been driving me up a wall. Whoever did that, your mom's a hoe. Yeah, whoever took out the Internet Archive, your mom's a hoe.
Absolutely.
But I did want to bring up mine. I wanted to save it for last. I know a lot of people here have heard it before, but for me, the most direct paranormal experience I ever had by far, and the one that I remember the most vividly, was actually when I was about 17. I was playing Infection with my friends. So, Manhunt, where one person starts is it, and the last man standing wins. If you ever played Halo or the Modern Warfare, the OG Modern Warfare's Infection was a game mode and all of those too. But I'm hiding in my buddy Tommy's backyard, not Tommy's backyard, sorry, the backyard adjacent to Tommy's. It's an abandoned house. It's been abandoned since we all moved into that neighborhood when we were like 7. So this is about 20 years. It's about 10 years ago now. House had been abandoned for about 10 at the time. I'm just hanging back there. We were all a little creeped out about that house because it was abandoned. Nobody knew why. You've been to the neighborhood I grew up in.
Oh yeah,
it's a really nice neighborhood.
No, it's not like the typical like creepy house at the end of the block.
No,
it's just a random house that nobody lives in.
Yep. So it's just right next to one of my best friend's houses. There's families that live on both sides, across the street and behind it. Nobody was really sure why this home has been abandoned for so long. But we all kind of assumed it was haunted. So I go hiding in the backyard. I'm crouching by a hedge. Tommy's he runs past me in his own yard, doesn't see me. I'm like, all right, cool, golden. Nobody's going to think to look here. We're good. So as I'm hanging out, it's probably around like 10 o'clock at night in the summer. So it's still pretty warm. It was bright out until around 9. And it gets really cold. Like, not the usual, the temperature will drop a couple of degrees an hour until it finds where it's going to rest for the night. Like, dropped like 10 to 15. Like that. I was a little freaked out by that. But I'm a big boy. I was 17. I was in the greatest shape of my life. I was not afraid of no ghosts. So I'm like, all right, the worst thing that happens is it's a ghost. So I turn around and look at the house and I yell at the house, hey, F off. And as many people who have heard me tell this story in the past know, every single door in the house slammed. And you could tell it wasn't like the sound of one door shutting. It was that sound of like a whole bunch of doors closing at once.
Oh, you pissed it off.
Oh, yeah. I actually forgot an element of the story. The reason I turned around to look at the house in the first place. There was a plastic lawn chair that was in the driveway. That was just sitting on the driveway when I had walked into the yard. And what spurred me to turn around and look at the house, aside from just it getting really cold, was that I heard something behind me clattering across the pavement, thought somebody had finally found me, turned around, it wasn't. The chair was just like 10 feet away from where it had been on its side. And that's when I was like, oh, I'm going to tell the ghost to F off. That's a good idea. Every door in the house slammed, and I booked it out of there. Yeah. I did not come back. Funny thing, we went to college a year later. A family moved into that house. I don't think they lasted the entire first year. That house has had at least 2, possibly 3 families move in and out in the last 10 years since I went to college and came and finished up and all that. And it's one of those things where you're like, okay, if you look up the house on Zillow, there's nothing in the disclosure where it's like, oh, there's black mold. And also 3 families have now moved into the house. Like, clearly there's nothing preventing people from buying the home. And yet they get in there, they stay for a year or 2, and they leave. It is the only house in that entire neighborhood that I grew up in, that I spent 10 years of my life in. The only house that is constantly moving in and out.
I wonder
if...
It
was a berserker larper.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wonder if the Historical Society of the area might have any information about the history of that house in particular.
They might, but it can't be that old. That whole neighborhood was built in the last 100 years.
I thought they were older.
Not those ones. Tommy's house was new build 20 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's just weird.
I'm pretty open to the paranormal, and my belief with this kind of stuff has always been sort of I guess like time replays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something happens as we live and breathe throughout our lives that is recorded in some sort of quantum way, and it might repeat and even get a reaction when you aggravate it,
Yeah.
I will say it right now, I do think I believe in ghosts, but I'm very, very skeptical towards 99% of stories. I like to believe in cryptids, but I'm just not there yet.
Yeah.
But I'm of the belief that I've received almost 10,000 stories by now, maybe more. If just one of those people, one of them, saw it clearly and is not lying, then there's some messed up crap in this world.
Yeah,
It just takes one.
exactly. And there's a lot of stories.
Well, that reminds me of, and before I go into this swamp, I just want to echo what Darkness was saying. Where are you on your level of belief at this point?
I'm hard skeptic, even though I've had weird experiences myself. I've always just never wanted to be that person who just falls into one belief, because I feel like you kind of cut yourself off from being able to do like real research at that point. Like you got to be open to everything and kind of have a little bit of column A, column B kind of going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably very similar to Darkness in that. Just like I believe the paranormal, but I don't necessarily. I look at it very, very with a lot of scrutiny.
Yeah, I definitely cut my belief system off, mainly because I've listened to so many stories that were bullcrap, right? And over the years, reading this stuff, it makes you more skeptical.
I can absolutely agree with that. Oh my God. I used to be so much more superstitious before I started doing what I do now.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, there's almost always a human reason.
Yeah.
So it's almost always a person or a mountain lion.
Well, this brings
Exactly. Yeah.
This brings me to the thought I had about the story that I was thinking of when we were talking about, the general stories, the unique kind of vague stories being the ones that are most, plausible. And the one that I wanted to bring up with you guys and also you is curious if you guys have heard of it and curious if you'd be willing to give the briefing if they haven't.
Sure.
Was the M Cave.
Ooh, yeah. Have you guys heard about Kenny Veach in the M Cave?
I don't think so.
You have?
I have.
All right.
Not me.
So, Darkness, I'll give it to you. This guy, Kenny Veach, lived out in, I want to say he lived in Vegas, but he did a lot of hiking. This was just, he was kind of an eccentric guy as I was looking into him. His YouTube channel was basically him trying to pitch like Shark Tank kind of ideas. Seemed a little eccentric, but harmless, he didn't come across as the kind of guy who was just insane, just maybe a little weird. One of his hobbies was he liked going and hiking out in the desert, out east of Vegas, kind of generally in the vicinity of Nels Air Force Base, but not on the base, obviously. And there's a video that he was commenting on YouTube, and this is part of the reason this story is so interesting, because he didn't make a video where he was like, I'm going to go find this thing. He commented under a UFO disclosure video. It was, I can't remember who exactly, but just somebody talking about, UFOs and their time working at, I think, Area 51. Might have been like a Bob Lazar kind of video. And he commented saying that one day while he was hiking out in the desert near Nels, he found this oddly shaped cave. It was like the entrance was a perfect capital M. And he said that as he got closer to it, he started to feel this like strange sensation, almost as if he was being microwaved, he said. Like that it was like his skin started to tingle, just general vibe that, something was affecting him and he should leave. Not like, your skin's prickling because your sixth sense is telling you something's wrong. Like he felt like he was burning.
Yeah, and didn't he say he felt like his whole body was like vibrating?
Yeah, he felt like his whole body was vibrating. So he just dips out, leaves, and he's telling the story in this YouTube comment section, and he doesn't know what he found. He's just totally kind of like, yeah, I had this weird experience. Some people comment, they're like, oh, you're so full of shit. You're making that whole thing up. That's BS. Like, stop commenting stories just for clout, blah, blah, blah. And he got really upset about it. He was like, no, this is a real thing that happened. I'm guessing the guy was probably somewhere on the spectrum based on what I saw from him. Gets really upset about it. And he's like, no, okay, I'll go prove it. So he goes to do this hike to find the M Cave, and he doesn't. But he makes I think like a 20-something minute long video, shows kind of the general area that he was in, and just hikes for several hours, doesn't find it. A lot of people watch the video and they're like, oh no, I think he passed it. I think he just remembered it as being more of an M than it was, because there is a formation that looks a little like an M. Like, it's lopsided, but you can see where there could have been an M shape there. But that's not what he described. He wasn't like, yeah, it looked kind of like, he said it looked exactly like an M, like a perfect capital M. So he goes out, and once again, people are like, no, you didn't find it because it wasn't there. You're just lying to us. So he says, I'm going to go find it again. I'm going to go do it, and I'm not coming back till I do. Plans I think it was a 3-day trip that he planned. He never came back. His pickup truck was found on the side of the road, I believe with a cooler of beer in it, because he liked to have a cold beer when he got back from his hike. He also said that he would routinely lose like 10 to 15 pounds, all of his toenails. Like this was not, he was not hiking properly. That's for sure. But he also was surviving it over and over and over again. So who knows? He couldn't have been carrying that much water. He's also going to an area that has predators.
He sounds like the David Goggins of hiking.
He does sound like the David Goggins of hiking, but was not the David Goggins of hiking preparedness at all.
No.
So he never comes back. They find his pickup truck on the side of the road. They find his cell phone sitting like on top of a mine shaft. He is not in the mine, by the way, and like they looked. He was not in the mine. There was no way he could feasibly be in the mine. It was collapsed. It was caved in. It had been like that for a long time. They go and they look around the area. They can't find his tracks. They can't find him. Nothing of his clothes. No evidence that he is anywhere. And of course, they had the route from the YouTube video, generally. So they were like, okay, well, we can kind of follow his route. Maybe we'll find him along the way. He's probably dead, but maybe he's there. Nowhere along the route. So all we have about Kenny Veach is he went off into the wilderness and never came home after encountering some sort of weird vibrating cave. The narrative from his girlfriend at the time, she thinks that he took his own life and that was planned. That's why this time he didn't bring his 9mm. He didn't bring his cell phone out with him wherever he went. Everything was left there. He's gone. On the other hand, his family disagrees. They don't think that he did kill himself. I'm curious, based on what you heard, what you guys think.
What do you think, Swamp?
Personally, I definitely would lean closer to suicide, but could just be a freak accident as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have heard that it's very, very easy out of the wilderness to not see a cliff, or a hole, a ditch that can easily snap your neck or break your spine. So maybe it was that. I don't know why the cave was vibrating. Don't stick your dick in it, and you'll probably be fine.
My take,
very eerie story.
My take on the cave was that it could have been something military related, and that what he was experiencing was an active denial system, so that it was shooting infrasound or hypersound at him, and he couldn't hear it, but he could feel it.
Do you think if it's something classified enough, they would just kill a civilian?
Oh yeah.
We know from a variety of things we've covered that is absolutely within not only the realm of possibility, but seemingly standard operating procedure for certain departments.
Would not even need to be an accident.
Yeah.
Do you think they just send a clone of Hillary Clinton with a 9mm to the cave entrance and shot him?
Oh my God.
It'd be a clone of Monica.
Part of me wonders, I'm like, did he find it? Did he find the M cave?
He might have.
Because the alternate explanation, the clincher here that makes this a weird story is him leaving behind the cell phone. Because again, he didn't bring his gun. If he went off himself, you would think he would have brought his handgun.
It'd be the easiest option, yeah.
Dying slowly of starvation and thirst in the desert is not a pleasant way to go.
No.
So someone had his cell phone and he just left it behind, right? So they found it afterwards.
They found his cell phone at this mine shaft that's not far into the route. It's like a mile from the road, if that.
Do you think, this leads me to the idea that, do you think it's the government, a government, or aliens?
I'm more inclined towards government than aliens.
Same.
With that kind of thing. I would wonder if, did Kenny find the cave and they went, all right, the first time was an accident. Now you're actually looking for it and you're going to tell people about it. You can't come back. And they took his phone and, disappeared the guy.
Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, apparently they've been disappearing entire airplanes. So,
because what? Yeah, right. Well, because what year was this again?
What could be worth killing an innocent man over? Like the bomber, like that black bomber back in the day, the stealth bomber used to be a high tech classified thing, right? Do you think they would have killed someone over that?
100%.
I could see it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you start to look into what the government has done to people just for the sake of doing it, I mean, the Tuskegee Experiment is, I think, one of the big ones where you're like, oh, okay, they continued this experiment for another 30 years after being fully aware that there was a cure for syphilis. They just kept a whole bunch of dudes infected with syphilis when they could have cured it at any time for a test that didn't need to be run in the first place.
No, that was the thing, is they already had the cure and they already knew the effects of syphilis. The test was not achieving anything at all.
Yeah, there was, I'm not sure how much you guys have heard about this one, but back in the 30s, the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, they took a bunch of African-American men in Tuskegee, Alabama, tested them for syphilis, got a control group of people who didn't have it and a group of people who did, and then they just monitored it. They were like, we're going to tell these people they're being treated for quote-unquote bad blood, and we're just not actually going to treat them. We're going to see what happens. The idea was, let's see how syphilis spreads. Let's see how it develops if untreated. Now, this didn't need to be done because an identical study had been done in Norway 30 years earlier using existing patient files.
Yep.
So they didn't have treatment for syphilis, so they just used the files of people who'd had it and did the study from there. The reason they felt they needed to do it a second time was that they allegedly thought that black people had different progression of syphilis. Realistically, that probably had nothing to do with it. 10 years into this experiment, in 1942, syphilis is invented. Penicillin is invented. And in 1946, penicillin becomes broadly available, mass-produced, easy to get to. They continued the experiment until 1972. They actually told doctors that they would be fined or jailed for revealing test results, for informing these people that they had syphilis. So none of these people did anything wrong. They didn't need this test. There was literally no reason to do this, and the government allowed a lot of these people to die. Allowed a lot of them to live with syphilis for 40 years.
Yep.
We need Second Amendment recreational nukes right now.
Maybe that's what Kenny found.
Maybe it's what
Kenny found the recreational nuke
Let's
factory.
think that's
And
why
we
I was
were
asking.
that close.
We were that close.
That's why I was asking about what time frame this was, because I know we were using infrasound in caves in the Middle East against the Taliban as early as the
Kenny was like 2013.
Yeah, so it may have just been advanced testing of that.
True.
And, they didn't want information about that getting leaked because they didn't want the Taliban and Al-Qaeda finding out one of their methods of secret weaponry. I mean, it, truly would not surprise me.
No.
Here's a debate for you.
Sure.
Let's take this syphilis experiment, the Tuskegee experiment, and put it on a nationwide scale and around 2020, 2021.
All right. You stop that right now.
And there's the Wikipedia article beneath.
You're going to get us articled. You're going to get us the article. Oh boy. But all right. Well, it's now 8:00, so we got to switch over to super chats. Do you guys have any last thoughts before we do that? Anything you want to mention or talk about?
And if something comes up during super chats, we can totally tangent, but just in case.
Go right ahead. I'm good.
I do have one quick proclamation.
Sure.
This might not go over well. You guys have heard of all those cows that are like found randomly mutilated?
Yeah.
Like, do you think that might have anything to do with the same thing as like the Kenny Beach thing, like a government conspiracy thing? I'd literally just had this conversation before this, so.
God, I've only looked into the cattle mutilations when it has to do with Skinwalker Ranch. So I don't know a ton about them.
Were there any conclusions from the Skinwalker Ranch version?
It was weird. It seemed weird. Like there were things like perfectly like circular boreholes in the cows.
And were they like completely dry blood?
Yeah, completely bled dry, and like the cow had been alive the day before.
Yeah, the thing that I think about in relation to that would be, we don't, as far as I'm aware, we don't run any medical studies on cows because they're not similar enough to humans to learn anything from them. But if it's maybe like, a weapon experiment, or a specifically military related experiment where it's not really looking at the effects on humans, it's just looking at the effectiveness of a weapon on a biological organism, maybe.
Could it be farmer fraud? Is there any benefit to massacring your stock?
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, depending on the
Some
scale.
insurance claims.
Yeah, insurance claims, possibly.
And I mean, It's a good way to guarantee that there's no precedent for what you're describing.
Yeah. The only
Someone's
thing
trying
though
to
is
get
that
out of the farming game and wants to do it in style.
You need to kill a lot more than one cow at a
that's
time,
the
though.
thing, though. If it's just one at a time,
But then also,
Yeah.
why do the aliens? Why are they so curious about cows?
maybe
that's
Why not
something
just
I
take
always
some of
bring
our
up.
cows and breed them themselves?
I always think it's weird because it's like if they have this technology, they have this ability to come all the way to Earth by however means. Why are they messing around with cows? Especially
Well,
'cause,
they
like, a lot
see
of
our
these.
they see our obsession with quarter pounders from McDonald's. They're very curious, but they don't know how to make it themselves, so they go raw.
See, it's weird because like the cows' tongues are gone and their genitals are gone, and then
Yeah.
like the way they're
Okay,
found most
so
of the time,
They're
especially
experimenting with a raw quarter pounder, and they get a little horny, like I do.
Oh,
when I
good
go to
God.
I was
McDonald's.
gonna say they're freaks out there in
Oh,
the
boy.
the stratosphere.
Oh my God.
I just find it interesting because a lot of the bodies look like they've been dropped. You know,
Yeah.
like hides and stuff. So I don't know. I just thought that there might be like some sort of connection there if the government's more to blame than say some sort of fantastic alien.
Well, that's the thing with the government, though. Like, yeah, I could see the government doing weird experiments on cows. I just can't see why they would do it with random farmers' cows.
And not the
Why are they
random
so
farmers
messy?
themselves.
Yeah. Or you know what just occurred to me?
Huh.
Every time the government wants us to not pay attention to what they're doing, UFOs show up again. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But would cattle mutilations not be a good way to get people talking about something that isn't what the government's doing? Like, think about it. It's an insurance claim, so it's just a write-off. There's nobody needs to track it back anywhere. The local sheriff's department doesn't really need to do an investigation because what?
Yeah.
You know, if it was aliens, you get a news story that's going to attract attention, and you get a victimless crime, except for the cow.
If the government is behind UFOs and alien nonsense, where are the whistleblowers? Are there a lot, and I'm just missing them?
Hey, listen. I mean,
They're
Ashton
in Russia.
Forbes. Ashton's onto something,
Makes
man.
sense.
Huh?
Well, and that's the thing, because the only whistleblowers we get are people like Bob Lazar who come out in the total opposite direction of like, no, these things are real. I've worked on them, and there are things that I've never seen even remotely
Yeah.
on Earth. So yeah, it's interesting, and the whole like, I can't remember who had the theory recently. It might have been Rogan or somebody in that sphere that was essentially saying like, oh, the reason all of this keeps happening at like an increasing level of regularity is we've known about them since the Roswell thing.
Mhm.
And we're slowly just trying, like the government is slowly trying to introduce us to the idea, because if it happened all at once, considering the level of like it's like 97, 98
You
people.
did hear that on Rogan. It was specifically the episode with Rogan and Tom DeLonge.
Yeah, there we go. That's it. And it's like, and you know, if we introduced it too quickly, you know, every religion would suddenly cease to exist because everybody would, you know, it would go against everything.
Nah.
Every book.
Christianity can have aliens.
Yeah, I think that's a goofy reasoning.
Yeah.
I don't think the government, unless we are that stupid as a whole, right?
Have
I
you
don't
have
think
you
people are
met
that dumb?
have you met the average American?
I'm sadly one.
Me too, and I can attest. I'm an idiot.
No, I there's something very funny about the prospect. Like, back when I first saw that episode, I was like, there's no way the Pentagon would approach Blink-182 to inform the public about aliens.
And then
I look at the current election season, and I see how many TikTokers have been bought by both sides.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh no, they definitely would contact Tom DeLonge to do aliens. That would happen. That Kamala Harris just they have a Fortnite map.
What?
Yeah, there is a Fortnite map sponsored by the Harris Waltz campaign.
Hell yeah.
I have.
Things are getting very weird, Aiden.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you
Maybe we'll
remember
be
when
able to
they put
vote
that,
in
giant
Fortnite.
avatar of that rapper
Yeah.
in Fortnite, and they
This
were
is
throwing
Travis
tomatoes
Scott,
at
right?
him? I think so.
The internet and its consequences have been a detriment
Yeah.
to society.
Dude, I'd go to the Fortnite polls. I'd vote in Fortnite.
Fortnite, go to the polls.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just such a ridiculous concept.
Yeah.
We'll probably have better security though. At
Yeah.
least you're tied to an IP address.
Swamp,
All right.
Did you have
well,
a comment? Did you have a thought? Not about the Fortnite polls.
No, I don't think I have any thoughts.
God, that's just like Archie.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like the boy over there.
Just laying on the ground.
All right, cool. We will go to our first question of many.
Grab stuff that is relevant to them first.
I will. I'm gonna have to read.
That's fine.
You
can do it, buddy. I believe in you.
Well, I gotta pre-read. That's the thing.
Yeah, because sometimes that doesn't go well for us.
Yeah. Kalia Antoinette for $3.49. Thank you very much. Says my 3 favorite YouTubers, which is the first relevant one so far.
Yeah, suck it, Aiden.
I know. I no longer exist. What else? Jacket, who has been a member for 6 months. Thank you very much. Says it's interesting hearing Darkness's regular voice as opposed to his video one. It's so cool having them both on. I've listened to you both for years.
Oh, that's awesome.
I feel like my voice doesn't sound much different than my narrative voice, but
Fair.
You gotta do a over the top narrative voice like what we do. It's anytime
a long time
there's
ago, my wife was like, "Why don't you listen to your shows with me?" And I'm like, "You think I want to hear myself in the car?"
yeah,
No.
it's a little weird, isn't it? It's like
It
also
is
I know
weird.
this story already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do a weird like Sean Connery-esque accent if I need to narrate something a lot of the time.
Incredible.
I should have done it for our Teddy Roosevelt one. I thought it would be too much. I think it would have been just the right thing.
Fair. Gum for $10 has a question that I think should be interesting for never mind. For us if we weren't on the air.
Is there a way to read it without the C that's inevitably going to be there?
Who would win in a fight? The Yule lads' acclivity in the way in which you would biblically know someone for mischief, a woman who is interested in only women, or an individual who is interested in everybody. Wendossi bodyguards. There's nowhere I can get around that one.
Read this.
I will milk.
Who would win in a fight?
Whoever wins, we lose.
Okay, the Yule lads. Why would you not just say lust?
I don't know, because I was trying to be as PG as possible, man.
Lust is not off limits.
All right.
All right. Anyway, the Yule lads' lust for mischief, or the two oh now there's a buy one too. Okay.
Yep.
And apparently we're going to be milked.
Yep. Yeah.
Well,
do you understand the difficulty here now?
Yeah, no. I think 13 Yule lads beats 3 Wendigos.
100%. Asklord asks a question I can actually say for $5, saying, "Will you tell thy guests the glory that is muscular Christianity?"
Oh my God.
Which will give me an opportunity.
All heard of
to
muscular
pre-read.
Christianity?
I'm into it.
Have you so you know what it is, or you're just into it based on how it sounds?
Do I have to kiss boys? That's
No.
what I'm wondering.
No.
Okay.
I was hoping to kiss boys.
All right. Well, unfortunately, the muscular part I don't think gets rid of that. The Christianity part would frown upon it.
Okay.
You know, you can be swole. You just
But don't
have to
put it
be
in the hole.
straight.
Swole Jesus.
Stop it. Stop it.
Local legends Burton Moran for $2 says, "Awesome guests. Been a fan of them for a while."
Yeah, you guys
Thank you.
have some fans.
JMO
Swamp.
for $2 says, "Matussi's spookiest story is the red banana story."
Oh God. Oh, what a classic.
You can't.
I can't.
We don't
I can't.
have the time.
We don't have time for the red banana story.
Oh,
Do you
God.
guys know the red banana story?
I've never heard of it.
Oh, okay. I'm not doing this right now.
I am curious.
It would take the remainder of the episode.
If we ever did anything in person and we were hanging by a campfire, that's the proper place for,
Yeah,
for
that's-
the red banana story.
I'll tell it one of these days.
Yeah.
When we have an episode where we have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be waiting.
I'm excited. Agamemnon's gym bag for 556. Love the specificity, saying, "It's been a while. Have we heard from the Bone Tree guy? And do you want to educate them on who the Bone Tree guy is?"
Oh yeah, we have a dude who I think it was his place of work, right?
Not far from it. Yeah.
Not far from it, yeah. There was a tree, and the tree had a ring of bones around it. And somebody intelligently decided to remove the bones from the bone tree. And ever since that point, he said weird stuff started happening. So they put some bones back at the bone tree.
Well, no, because we didn't hear from him for a long time.
Yeah, and he
because
came back.
Yeah. Oh, he did. Okay, good.
Oh God, that reminds me of so many stories. I got one a long time ago called "The Skin Trees," and that title alone just like excites the hell out of me, right?
I got to hear this.
It was about a guy who went out of the woods. I think he was hunting. It was a long time ago.
Okay.
But he goes to this part of the woods where everything goes quiet, as these stories usually go. But
Right.
this time it makes sense. things didn't go quiet. They just weren't there anymore because there were hundreds of animals skinned not maybe alive, but skinned, hanging from the tops of trees, from the canopies, squirrels, deer, anything that could find whoever did this, skinned animals and just hung them up there as if they wanted to scare people. And I hope it was human. And there was another one that I got that's in this book called The Animal Skinner, where something in the suburbs somewhere was skinning pets if you left them out after dark. And they would always find them untouched except for the skin removed.
I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, so the latter one is just a serial
I
killer
was gonna
waiting to
say,
happen.
that's
Yeah.
literally something Dahmer did, or like at least tangentially.
Yeah.
He started with animals.
The other one, the first one though, that weirds me out
That's horrific.
because like animals in the tops of trees actually not as weird as you might think. Tornadoes, it can happen. Like that has been known to happen.
Yep.
Skinned. I don't think the tornado was skinning them.
Nope.
I would think maybe it's something similar to a cartel warning.
But like that's
Mm.
like the cartel is doing the warning though.
A cartel style group is telling people don't come this way.
Did
Maybe
he say
some
where
rumor
this
signers.
happened?
I do not know. I don't remember where that one happened.
Ooh.
I would say somewhere in the Midwest, if I recall correctly.
Those
To me, it
Midwestern
sounds like
cartels.
a group of furries letting you know not to come to their territory.
There's
Yeah.
a group of furries
I'm
gathering
scared.
enough materials for their next suit.
Yeah, like
Damn.
that's if
a
that's
big
a
furry.
real thing that happened, that's really weird and creepy, and I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
that
get out of
disturbs
there.
me.
I'd leave.
No good. Asklor for $5 says, remember to fishtail a 180 if you're driving through a rural road at night and you see boards with nails sticking up in the middle of the road.
That is actually good advice. Not the fishtail part so much, but yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with seemingly undamaged vehicles
Yes.
sitting there like they were in a crash.
Mm,
Especially in the middle of the road.
yeah. Unless
Oh,
it's
yeah.
76, because that's just normal.
Yeah, true. But yeah, that's that might have something to do with the story we're talking about next week, actually. Bert, I'm curious what you'll have to think about our conclusion on this one, but I'm wondering if there was like a setup based on what Brandon said. It sounds almost like a cartel setup.
Yeah. Beck F for $5 says, grew up on a farm in the foothills of the Ozarks in Oklahoma, and I've seen some stuff. My family has 5 generations of chilling stories. I think I speak for everybody when I say you could email literally any of us, and we would be interested to hear about them.
Yeah. Also, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I want to get this book you got, Darkness, and I'm kind of like, this would be a fun Patreon thing to go through and like take stories from it and then diagnose what they saw.
I can send you a copy, maybe ebook or something, but
Yeah.
it's a mixed bag of believability, but definitely a good bag of scary.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Is it'd at least be fun to go through everything. You know, because then it's like, whether it's true or not, it's okay. Well, what does this sound like? What did they run into? And be good can include a link for you, so people can buy the book. Actually, if you have a link for people to buy the book, let me know because I can toss it into the description of the video.
No link that I've made yet. I probably should have, but you can just search for Phantom Phenomena on Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
All right, cool. Well, I don't even mean like a affiliate link. I just meant a link.
Yeah.
I don't need to make money from it.
I should have made my own little link at eeriecast.com/something,
Yeah.
but I completely forgot to.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, it's fun.
I'll go grab it and I'll pop it in the description.
This is not really relevant to anything we've talked about, but I think is going to be interesting to discuss with y'all.
Okay.
Caster for $20, so thank you very much, says, my old babysitter said that there are real witches on some list and that human orangutans are a thing. I have no trust in any story that doesn't have actual proof. Why do y'all think no one gives real proof of this stuff? And I was curious specifically about the human orangutan thing. Wasn't a certain country in the 1930s and 40s working on something similar to
I
that?
think it was the Soviets.
Was it?
I think the Soviets were working on human ape hybrids.
I know, because like, aren't mules, donkeys, and
Mhm.
horses that just they can't reproduce because they're not?
Yeah.
Whatever is like. Is that? Are there any actual documented or declassified? Anything from anybody
Weren't
doing
there,
things like
like,
that?
Human pig hybrids in China not too long ago.
I remember hearing
this
about that. It
something
was like embryonic.
Hmm.
That they were working on a way to I think they thought like you could use human porcine God, what's the term?
I'm not buying the bacon, man.
Chimeric humans like to find a way to grow organs. If I remember correctly, was the goal.
Okay,
they were
that
trying to
makes
find a
sense.
way to grow. I think what they were trying to do was find a way to have pigs develop at least to like fetal maturity with human organs, so that you could just harvest the human organs out of the pig.
And now we're just going to grow them in a petri dish.
Yeah, that's the thing is China was like, how do I do this in the least humane way possible?
Yeah.
And the rest of the world was like, so we know how to do this in a petri dish, guys.
Yeah, Mid Journey is just like, imagine prompt human kidney, please.
Well, so my alma mater, Penn State, is actually doing some groundbreaking work and has been for the last decade or so on 3D printed human tissue, like working 3D. So I think what they've been able to do is ears. So far, they've been able to produce working genetically human ears.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're in the transplant stage with them yet.
Are we talking like the fleshy bit on the outside ear or like
whole ear.
inner ear?
The outside.
Okay.
But the idea is for cosmetic surgery for burn victims, people who have had it cut off, be able to transplant that, because once you do the ear, you can figure out the rest of the face.
Yep.
The ear is the most complicated one in terms of like structure.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to figure that out first, because once you can 3D print an ear, you could theoretically 3D print an entire face, and people would no longer need face transplants because they could have their own face printed and transplanted onto their body.
Let me ask you this, you three guys.
Sure.
How open are you to lab printed beef or other meats? Is that something you're instantly open to eating?
Honestly, I'm not. As long as, look, my issue is that every agency that exists now has so little trust that like it would take me some time, like give it like 5-10 years to make sure that there's not like, a dope sick style issue with, however they're like manufacturing it. But yeah, I mean, if it's technically the same, why not?
Absolutely. I think I'd be a waiter too, just to see what happens to other people who enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then I might dive in.
Yeah. As long as it's got a track record and a history of being safe, then yeah. I mean, if it tastes the same and it's just as safe, if not safer for the world and the environment, yeah, I'm all in.
I wouldn't drink a synthesized whiskey. I will not eat a lab-grown steak.
Even in 20 years.
No,
It's just on principle for you.
it's a principle thing.
Yeah.
I don't like that progress. I want that progress to stop.
Tell me why, because I don't want to be missing an idea here that would make me agree with you.
I don't really know that I have a persuasive argument for it. It's just I don't. I will say I think that there's a quality aspect to it. Like obviously there are taste differences between grass-fed, grass-finished, grain-fed, grain-finished. Like there are different tastes in the meat from the kind of food the cow was raised on. So
Absolutely.
Sure, you could probably find a way to synthesize that down the line, but also, you look at it, I feel like it's too unnatural.
So what about not necessarily like you're going to a steakhouse and it was made in a lab? That's still like 50-50 Angus Wagyu from like Wyoming,
Mm-hmm.
but just like general ground beef or like raw, like, or what is it? Like the chunk cuts for stews and things like that.
So I guess I've got two. If I were to make a persuasive argument, it would probably be this. As it stands right now, you can have a farm with 1 cow. You can have a farm with 150 cows. You can have a farm with 10,000 cows. You have varying sizes of farms. At no point in the chain is there any step to getting beef other than get a cow. It keeps it entirely within the hands of the consumer and the farmer. You start doing lab-grown stuff, well, how long until that cattle herd is producing a lot of methane? I really think we need to limit these family farms to 10 cows. And then from there, how long until, all right, well, we have to subsidize these farms that only have 10 cows because they can't make money otherwise, and that's a burden on the taxpayer, so I'm sorry, no more family farms. And then suddenly
I agree with you. I would be like, I'd try it once.
Yeah.
5 years down the line, but I'll always take the farmer. the farmer
Yeah.
cow.
I
It's
think
partially about supporting American farmers and partially about the fact that I don't want to get to a point where there is such a centralized food industry that everything we eat is printed in a lab.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you in that standing, but I think it would be the reverse. I think the family farms would be the ones that would survive because it would turn into whiskey or it would turn into what, vinyl records are now. It's not about the mass production. I think the factory farms would be the first things
Yeah.
to go away. I think what would be left would be those family farms with 10, 100 cattle that are selling to like exclusive steakhouses. And it's like the reason you're going to those steakhouses is because they are the select, they are the premier, they are the real.
So then we have a situation where the elite get to have real beef and all of us peasants get the lab-grown trash? No, I like that I can go buy a steak from a farm that's going to be the same quality cut of meat that I would get at a steakhouse.
Arguably better.
Yeah, like any farm locally.
Yeah.
I don't need to like look online and try and schedule something.
Yeah. But
No,
then
I'm
but
going to eat swamp
Yeah,
dweller.
it's a wait a second.
the same argument though there is that because the factory farm cattle now
Mhm.
are trash.
By comparison,
Yes.
again, it's a centralization issue more
Yeah.
than anything for me.
I mean, we
It's-
still have. I mean, granted, there is the argument that obviously, there is a lower limit to the floor of it because they're all living cows,
Mhm.
and you would have to see how bad a printed piece of meat would get by comparison if it would be above that floor or below.
Listen, this is only half about the flavor of the meat to me. The other half is I don't want centralized food production.
No, I know, but we already have that. We do.
Not nearly at the level that would create. But this is a different discussion for a different time.
fair. Look what you've started. Dow for $5 said, all fun and games until you hear your friend's voice calling for help and you're on the phone with him.
Yep.
New Jersey's weird, man. Plenty of woods.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's all Pine Barrens except for the very northwest bit. So
Yeah. Hallucinations are terrifying. You guys ever have like you saw something that wasn't there, or you heard something that wasn't there?
Oh man, I used to have this like weird proximity. It hasn't happened in a couple of years, but I had this thing to where like it would either be like usually like my mom or something to where like it would just be like my name from like a distance,
Mm-hmm.
but like my mom's like 8 states away and I haven't talked to her in like 10 years.
Ooh.
So it's like it's like what the heck? You go through the house, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
That used to happen almost on like a weekly basis to me at one point.
That's
It's been a long
terrifying.
time since that's happened, but I don't know if it was just like a high stress thing, but like, yeah, my house was pretty creepy for a couple months there.
Yeah, it's not great.
I'm not sure if I've hallucinated beyond that sleep paralysis experience, but I did have a direct experience of my own that was a bit of a mistake on my
Oh.
part. So
What happened?
I worked at Subway.
Uh-huh.
That was the mistake.
You met Jared.
Anyway, yeah, no. Luckily, I barely avoid him when I was at my hottest. But anyway, I was a teenager. I worked at Subway. I closed by myself for some reason on my first freaking day on the job, and I was driving home in the dark, as you do at night, and we had to open this cattle gate that had a cattle guard in the ground. It's like bars, so that when a cow goes through or tries to go through the gate area, if it's left open, they get their legs stuck,
Mhm.
right? So we lived beyond the farm, and we had to get out of our car, open the gate, drive through, get out again, close the gate, and then drive back up. Pain in the rear. But this night I did it alone, and doing that out there in the woods next to a farm in the dark is always a very eerie experience. And that night I got out of my car, opened the gate, pulled through, got out, closed the gate, and as I walked back to my car, I saw something like a man leaning out from behind a tree, like he would if he was crouched down and using his arm to lean on, peering out at me. A man with no shirt, extremely pale, no hair on his head, like a nude man crawling upon the ground, peering out at me. And I flipped shit. I got back in that car and forded up the hill so fast there were
Yeah.
rocks shooting
My
out
bad,
behind me
bro.
like a Gatling cannon. I hope it was you. But I drove all the way up
I was
as
tripping,
fast
dude.
as I could, got to my room and sat there like, what the hell was that? And then I realized that was a white-tailed deer's ass. Like, seriously, that was 99% sure now that was a white-tailed deer's ass. And it was just walking behind a tree at the right spot of my headlights. I saw it too quickly and freaked out.
I was gonna say if it wasn't
That's
that, it was
incredible.
another perma tweaker.
Yeah, another
tweaker.
berserker out in the Arkansas.
You guys, I'm sure, saw that video was viral on TikTok a few years ago of people being like, it's a Wendigo or a Skinwalker, and it's some dude like kind of crawling out of the woods on the side of the road and yelling weird grunt sounds at people. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah, again, my bad.
Yeah, everybody was like, it's a real life Skinwalker side. It was just a tweaker. You're like,
Swamp, get off the NyQuil bottles, dude.
yeah,
It's just me, bro.
I don't get it though, because I'm like, if you're from the inner city,
Yeah.
you've seen tweakers.
Mhm.
If you're from the boonies, you've seen tweakers. How suburban does your life have to be that you can't recognize a meth head?
You forget how suburban many people's lives are.
I guess. Just like, you
You know-
go down, you drive an hour that way, tweakers. You drive an hour that way, tweakers.
So Wendigos have Windusy, right?
No, good
We're all
God.
in agreement here. But
God.
my friends and I discussed this. Do they have Windigenus?
That's what
And
I
that
wanna
would
know.
be a dead giveaway because I don't believe they have a Windigenus.
Yeah,
so
I
if
agree
saw
with
a new
you.
tweaker in the woods, I could spot a pee-pee a mile away. I would know it's a man.
Yeah, I think based on the supernatural version of the Wendigo, I think the desiccation of the skin would not allow for a Wendigenus to exist.
Oh, that's my next episode, a Windigenus compilation.
How do you feel about bringing us all together right now?
I've made a number of mistakes in my life. This is several of them.
Incredible.
For the record, canonically, they do.
Okay, now
Yeah.
I know. I'm educated.
In the biblical canonical sense.
No, there are no Wendigos in the Bible.
The biblical Wendigo. I got to read that book again,
Oh,
man.
good God.
Well, I mean, considering what Nephilim may or may not mean.
Okay, all right. We are not circling back to the things I was saying 3 years ago to mess with me now. It's not fair. I did the full Joe Rogan. I started at the weird spot and I came around to being normal.
Yep.
See, look, Joe Rogan is what the Wendigo is scared of.
You know what? You know what would be scary would be Wendigo.
Wait, you know what's
Wendigo.
funny? How long has he been in Austin?
I don't know.
Because there haven't been
years?
any skinwalker sightings in the Southwest for quite a while.
Are we saying Joe Rogan killed the Skinwalkers?
No, they're just really scared of him.
You
I'm
know
Joe
what?
Joe
Rogan is their
Wendigo
only
can
natural
summon-
predator.
Wendigo
I
goes
think if
after
you summon
somebody.
Latino-
Skinwalker goes after somebody. They give it a good old jab with a cedar spear, sitting there bleeding out, and Joe Rogan's there with the microphone. Like, tell me how this fight went for you.
Yeah,
Like, little Joe Rogan always gets his interview, man.
he always gets it.
Always gets it. All right.
That's why it's so popular.
Exactly. Next is from the White Trash Panda for $10, saying, I once had the opposite of sleep paralysis. I was dreaming I was a knight in sword combat. When I woke up, I was rocking back and forth with my arms out in front like I was holding a two-handed sword. That just sounds like a rockin' dream.
That sounds
I hope he's not
sick,
married.
dude. I did that once, but it was with a handgun.
Man, you guys watch Annabelle? I think it's Annabelle. where
Yeah.
There's a scene at the start where occult members in the opposite house from them run in and stab the sleeping couple to death.
Yep.
That scared the hell out of me. And that same night after seeing that movie, I woke up half asleep still, and my wife's hand was hanging down like a spider
No, no.
in front of my
Ooh.
face. And I screamed like a little freaking girl. And she jumped up and screamed at me like a grown man. And we just screamed at each other at the top of our lungs so loud. I swear to God, I thought someone was going to call the cops on us. But that was honestly the most scared I've ever been because I thought we were going to get cult membered.
I have a question. What was the sleeping arrangement that resulted in your wife's hand dangling down over your face?
She had her arm. She was laying on her side, and I think it was over her shoulder in a weird way.
Okay.
And I was doing a little cuddles, you know.
I'm doing the math in my head here. I'm like, okay, so she's in the hand.
I was really hoping you were going to say bunk beds.
I was too. Would have been
You said
really
no to
funny.
that.
She said no to bunk beds.
Oh, what a shame.
Oh, you gotta get bunk beds with the boys.
Yep. Bunk beds all around.
Bunk boys. Boy beds.
Next one's from Daniel Franklin Henry Jr. for $10, saying, one time I thought I saw my coworker walk around the corner into a room, and I followed him in to ask a question, and there was no one there, And then I
Ooh.
see him driving back from a lunch break.
Been there.
Been
That's
there.
Weird.
Everybody?
Yeah.
Not
Swamp.
not me. Not yet. Unless a
what's your
deer's
story?
ass gets in my house.
No,
Look, I was a Walmart manager at one point. I've been
Okay.
there, brother.
Oh, yeah, oh boy, Walmart.
Yeah, we got
I
to
can only imagine. I like how we all had such normal jobs.
Yeah.
Like we all had very normal careers before this. That's very funny.
Yeah, dude, I detailed cars, and then I thought, you know what? I want to be scared for the rest of my life.
Word.
Wait, Swamp, so what was your Walmart story? Can you tell it?
Oh shoot. Just I worked at this really old Walmart in Asheville, and like I swear, like all the time you'd just see random people that would be there. Somebody be on like the walkie-talkie, like, hey, there's somebody that needs help over here. Then you go there, and there's nobody there. But then you go look at the surveillance, there's never anybody there. And I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So I don't know, just weird stuff like that. But I mainly say the Walmart joke because everything weird possible can happen there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walmart's just Walmart.
Yeah.
No,
What was yours?
I don't have. So I mean, I have the one about being in my buddy's basement and that knife dangling from a lighting fixture, which isn't really the same kind of story, but it was freaky as hell. No, I mean, I think it's probably my meds, but I had pneumonia, so I was on prednisone. And also, by the way, just really funny thing that's been happening. A whole bunch of people have been like, wait, when did he have pneumonia? Because our content schedule didn't change. We just
Yeah.
kept putting out videos, and I was just working while I had pneumonia.
Yeah.
So if you're wondering,
Hardcore.
I just never stopped working. I didn't even know I had pneumonia until I'd had it for 3 weeks.
He didn't know he had pneumonia until
I was coughing up a lung,
2
but
weeks after both his girlfriend and I insisted he go to a doctor. He finally did.
and they were like, bro, you've got pnumonia.
Yeah.
I'm
But
glad you're
anyway,
alive.
I've been on prednisone, and that's how I've been justifying what I'm seeing is being on both prednisone and Concerta, because Concerta is like, it's a methylphenidate, I think. So it's a meth. It's
So
a,
you're a perma tweaker.
yeah. Oh, yeah. All the ADD girlies are perma tweakers.
Welcome to the family.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was sitting. It was like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I was sitting doing some work because that's how my life is in my office at home. And just out of the corner of my eye, the way that our office is set up, my desk is here, and then there's a wall directly to my left, and then the rest of the room is just kind of open to my right. And I kept seeing little like flashes of movement. And at first I thought, oh, it's the dogs. My headphones are on. I got music going. It's probably just Archie. He's a little white furball. It's probably just him walking past me. But I got up and went to look for Archie. The door to the bedroom was closed, and he was in there with Amanda and Ella. So both the dogs and my girlfriend are all in the bedroom with the door closed. So it wasn't the dogs. And then it happened again, and I'm just like, what is going on? Because it was like eye level for me. And I'm sitting down, but it's still at about like 4 feet up.
Yeah.
And just for the life of me, I'm like, I cannot, but it wasn't like a small, like I was getting, my heart was skipping. Like I would see something and would have that reaction, that fight or flight of like, oh, do I need to grab something to defend myself right now? But every single time, there's just nothing there. And I'm chalking it up to being on 2 medications that can cause hallucinations. But it was getting weird. It's been a lot lately. It hasn't happened since I stopped taking the prednisone. So I'm thinking that might have been it, but still, don't like
Yeah,
it.
I didn't know about that prednisone being hallucinatory, but I'll keep an eye on my medications next time.
It was one thing that I saw that I was like, it was like a rare side effect kind of thing. And I'm like, it probably doesn't happen unless you have an interaction. But
My wife had some similar experiences at her house before I met her, but she would be reading in bed, and she said one time she saw the head of a bald man peer out from beside her bed and looking in her direction. And it was so vivid out of the corner of her eye. She thought someone was there, and she jumped and screamed. But when she looked, it was completely gone.
it was Joe.
But this
It was
was-
Joe Rogan.
That sounds like my
was
sleep
Wendo Joe.
paralysis experience.
Yeah, it does.
Dude, Joe Rogan needs to stay out of people's homes.
He really does. Respect some
Unless
privacy,
he wants
Joe.
to interview me.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, like, how many times we got to tell you we have not tried DMT?
Yeah.
I know you keep asking.
Also, Joe, if you're watching this, I've seen your guests mention Missing 411 several times now. Please.
That's some creepy stuff. I listened to so many Missing 411 interviews back when that was a big thing.
Yeah.
Bought all the books.
Oh,
So scary.
you poor soul.
What do you mean back when that was a big thing.
Oh, when they came out in like 2011.
No, I'm kidding.
No, oh man, David Paulides is becoming the bane
he
of
a
my
goober?
existence.
Do you want to give the lowdown for them?
Yeah, I don't want to ruin it for them. I don't want to ruin the illusion.
It's a very simple, very quick explanation.
I find David Paulides' research to be lacking in detail. I'll put it that way.
I did hear rumors that he really wants to connect everything to Bigfoot.
I would argue that is not a rumor at all. If you go to the website North America, I think it's NASB.com, but I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. If you look up North American Bigfoot search or North America Bigfoot search, it's an organization started by David Paulides in like 2009 or 2010, I think. Right there on the site, the website, by the way, hasn't been updated in a long time. Website has on it, about us, director David Paulides, and then on the side panel, because this is from when websites had side panel menus instead of across the top, it has Missing 411. As part of the Bigfoot website, I don't think it's ambiguous.
It's not ambiguous. He's
Yeah.
just never directly addressed the link.
So I'll have David Paulides fans in my comments who are like, he never explicitly says it's Bigfoot. I'm like, he really doesn't have to.
Yeah.
He alludes to it a lot. There are a few Missing 411 cases that I looked at and I was like, oh, because that's most of what we do. I looked at it, I was like, these are weird. Stacey Aris is a weird one. They should have found her. Dennis Martin's another weird one, but Dennis Martin's weird because of what the FBI did, not because of the actual disappearance. The FBI intercepted a potential witness and then talked to him in private, and then he changed his story completely when he talked to the National Park Service. That one was weird. Garrett Bardsley's weird, but for the most part, I find that it's like, for example, Jeff Haig. He says that there's no reason Jeff Haig should have ended up where he was. And yeah, if Jeff Haig was behaving normally instead of, walking off on the wrong trail deliberately. So it's, how did he get lost? Well, he was a 16-year-old boy who apparently got in a fight with another 16-year-old boy that morning and then went off in a different direction. He got lost. Like, this is not mysterious. That's
A lot of that behavior too. It just seems
Yeah.
like a good case study of just the way the human mind sort of works when it's desperate, thirsty, hungry. I wonder, all the clothes being folded and taken off thing that was probably themselves doing it because they felt strange, right?
Yeah, and there's been a few times where I've seen that in a story and then I can't track down where David had that information. Like he'll say that he interviewed somebody and they told him, but there's no transcript of the interview. Sometimes the person's not even named. Sometimes it's somebody you couldn't possibly hope to access. Sometimes it's somebody who's dead and wasn't at the time. So, so for example, with Jeff, it's his clothes weren't folded. I don't know if David said they were actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but his clothes weren't folded, but he was, his jacket was open and a couple of his gloves were off. Well, paradoxical undressing is a thing. Some of the cases I'm trying to think of, I know there was one where the clothes were actually definitely straight up folded. I can't remember what it was. Stacey Aris, he said there was a lens cap found near the lake. There's no documentation that a lens cap was found near the lake anywhere. Charles McCuller, he said the guy's feet bones were found inside of his socks, still in his pants, hanging off the side of a log. That turned out to not be true at all. So there's a few. Yeah, I've become disillusioned with David over the past few years.
I think he may have just used AI. From my experience.
The pre-AI.
Yeah. Well, then there's cases where, and I won't give away the ending for this coming week.
Okay.
But there's cases like this week where the mystery ends up being something that is within, I can say, the realm of reality.
Yeah.
That we know it. But it's just something that we don't think about or don't know about on the whole, generally, which, I mean, at least in my opinion, part of the reason why I enjoy doing this stuff is because, for people that are going out in the woods, hiking and, mountain climbing and things like that, they should know about these dangers because it is a literal life or death scenario.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of the things that we would consider paranormal probably have scientific explanations behind them we just don't understand yet.
Yep.
So that's why I'm slow to be like, no, that's not a real thing. Science doesn't support it. And it's like, okay, well, nuclear technology didn't exist 100 years ago, and now it does. So
Yep.
So what's next?
yeah, exactly. You know, what is coming that we just don't know about yet? You know, is there an explanation for some of these things? And I think there probably is for a lot of them, but that's what we think happened with this Friday's video that's coming out, is something that, I would argue counts as paranormal.
Yeah. Borderline, yeah.
Borderline paranormal, but in what way? So that's about all I'll say. But do we have more of these? I don't want to keep these guys too long.
We
We're
do
already
indeed,
15 minutes over.
A quick one from Emerald Queen for $4.99 saying, I saw a late cat, meaning a cat that was deceased, and heard the bell on another cat's collar, heard the bell on another cat's collar, like a separate cat bell, both after either they passed away or went missing.
Ooh. Weird.
Cat
It is
ghost.
odd.
Cat ghost.
And then Wyatt Gilliams for $10 says, the best paranormal / cryptid encounters, in my opinion, he's echoing something that you guys said earlier, come from people who don't purposely look for them. Because of that, my motto is, if one exists, why not others?
Yeah. Also, have you guys seen any of that where it's like, I'm trying to think of what the best way to phrase this is, but like, I completely lost my train of thought too. Damn.
What were you saying?
I don't know.
Did you guys hear the first
Sometimes
one?
I just start a sentence and I don't know where it's going.
I didn't even hear the beginning because I was looking.
What was the last super chat you read?
Last super chat was the best cryptid encounters are the ones
Yeah.
that people not purposely
Right,
looking for.
right. I was gonna say, one of the things I'll do on my personal channel during streams is I will do like commentary and reaction videos to ghost videos or Bigfoot sightings, Wendigo encounters, all those things, and I'm always more inclined to believe it when it's from a TikTok account that mostly posts videos of like their cat, or they do something, they're a barista and they post about, doing coffee. And then suddenly, not in connection with them being a barista or anything, they're, at home sitting on the couch and they have a paranormal experience. Those people I always am more willing to believe than people who are ghost hunters going places and then somehow every single time they have a paranormal experience. I think Twin Paranormal is my I don't think they know it, but they're my nemesis. Yeah, they just go places and they're like, oh my God, all of these random gadgets we have made a sound.
I agree with you. When I started the other podcast I had called Tales from the Break Room, which is like job related stories, you start to have a very more clear definition of who's making crap up and who's not.
Yep.
Because when people are working, they're going to tell you stuff they know about their job, and that it just comes out of nowhere. They're not leading up to an experience. They're just setting it up so you can get a vivid picture of their job in your mind, and then the crap happens. And those are really believable to me.
Yeah, it's just when also, yeah, I'm sure you've gotten some of these. You probably like, oh, this is definitely a true story. It's a real thing that happened. And then it's written like they have an English degree, like they have their master's in English lit. And you're like, okay.
People, when you're submitting stories to folks like us, we don't want to hear Stephen King novels. That's one end too far. And we don't want to hear extra chromosome Jimmy. Okay.
Oh, no.
We want somewhere in the middle where it's just a guy and he's basically, we're at the bar. You see me. And you're like, dude, I know you. I want to tell you something weird. And that's the kind of story I like.
Yeah. Because that's believable. Now, I'm gonna buy it if there's spelling mistakes everywhere, because I know that you don't have any dreams of being a writer. Like, this is not your big break. You're just
If
a
your
dude
Bigfoot
telling a
encounter
story.
starts with, what is a rose? I'm going to have a seizure.
Incredible.
All right, let's get through the last ones.
This one's just for us saying, why is it called the Weird Bible and not the Lord Lodge?
Oh, that would have been such a good idea.
Yeah. Thanks
Missed
for making us
opportunity.
realize
That was a
we
mistake.
screwed up.
We have a Bible show called The Weird Bible.
Well, now they copyrighted the Lord Bible and you can't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tyler Dalrymple for $5.69. I love the specificity. Saying, I think ghosts are replays of human brain waves stored on underground quartz deposits powered by ambient EMFs, not human souls repeating projections. Thoughts?
That's so specific that I think he knows too much.
Yeah, it was very specific, actually. Yeah. It's the Clockwork Elves keeping our memories beneath the
FBI,
earth.
that guy.
That guy is the FBI.
Yeah.
That was the whistleblow.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm more on the sort of, quantum memories side, I guess. Like that the universe retains traumatic events in some way.
Like some sort of physical ripple you leave as you move about. Or it could be even psychic, because I'm pretty sure we produce some sort of brainwave as we think.
Also,
so
like,
who knows?
Weird thing I came across reading Heiser, the Bible has absolutely accounts for the concept of ghosts.
Oh,
It's just in there in the Old Testament, just hanging. Yep.
what? Where?
There's just a number of passages mentioning the disembodied souls of the dead, and they don't always have to be in the underworld.
I'm not shocked considering last Weird Bible we went over that part of Deuteronomy where they specifically say, "Oh yeah, you can like talk to people from beyond the grave and like, do magic and all of this stuff, but you just shouldn't."
Yeah.
Oh, I'm of that belief too. I don't, at this point in my life, I'm not religious, but I will tell you now, I'm not going to play with the Ouija board. Just in case.
No, do
Seems
not.
like a bad idea.
Yeah, the Old Testament, the Bible literally says that people who interact with demons, like if somebody is possessed by a demon, you're just supposed to kill them. It's the, New Testament, we get Jesus is like, "Be gone, thought," and then the demon is whisked away back to hell. And he gives the apostles the ability to do that, which transmits it to the priests and so on and so forth. In the Old Testament, there's no mechanism. It's just you just kill the person.
Not
That's
the most
a final
effective.
solution.
Yeah.
It is. It's not a good one.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, right. Well, at the time.
If you have no means of exorcising the demon.
Yeah, they didn't have treadmills back then.
I knew that was coming.
the meme of you when you excise the demons, but they keep
Yeah, they keep tormenting.
Oh, we gotta post that in the Discord again. Askler for $5 says, "I believe this is referring to Kenny Beach. Would it be feasible that he was taken out and who/whatever did it placed the items in their respective spots? Getting into cars without keys is easy."
Yeah, I would be down for that. That's one thing I've been considering. We're gonna get back to Kenny Beach at some point.
Yeah.
Gonna work our way back to that case, just as we go through all of our old ones and do good research on them instead of the very basic amount I was able to do back then. But yeah, I would almost think that the reason Kenny's phone was there was that somebody took him and left something where it would be easy to find so that people would make assumptions about what happened.
Yep.
I mean, at this point, I'm quite confident I could get away with murder, and it's by doing things like that.
Yeah, I'm recording this.
Yeah, thank you. So are we, technically, but
If I ever kill anybody, no, I didn't.
I'll take the rap for you.
you know what? That's a real friend.
Exactly, yeah. He's going to rat me out first chance he gets.
I just want to tell Bigfoot stories to inmates.
That'd be fun. Or you could do what Charles Manson did and
Start a cult?
learn
Do
guitar.
LSD?
Learn guitar from.
Oh, yeah,
Machete.
learn steel guitar from Machete while in prison.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Oh, Charles Manson is a rabbit hole, dude. Like, Manson learned steel guitar from Machete in prison and then went on to room with one of the Beach Boys while
Good
being, like, a drug mule for the CIA.
Yep.
He lived a life, didn't he?
He sure did.
He lived it fast.
And then he died
Yeah.
in prison.
That was the definition of burnout instead of fade away.
Yeah.
Quite literally, his brain got burnt out and then he did horrific things.
That man listened to a Beatles song and went, "Oh, this is about race war."
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yep. The question is, was that before or after the CIA mandated drugs?
It was after. Dude, again, the Manson thing does not get... People do not, talk about the extent of this enough. He was convinced that there was going to be a race war and that the blacks, being the physically superior race, would overpower the others, mostly the whites, because there wasn't a huge Asian population at the time. But that because all they had was their brawn, they would need to elect a white man to lead them, and it would be him.
God, I ain't touching that with any pole, dude.
No.
That was Manson's thing.
Yeah.
It was there's going to be a race war. We're going to lose, and they're going to elect me their leader anyway. This man had a 95 IQ.
Oh God.
He did not fit into his own scenario, and I don't think he realized it. He also, for some reason, felt that a 22 caliber handgun would be the best weapon with which to assassinate somebody. I mean, it's quiet, but it's also a 22. So, I mean, you're not guaranteed to do the kind of damage you need to, which actually happened. Somebody he tried to have killed survived because they shot him with a 22.
Yep.
But yeah, Manson.
Yeah.
I'll go back and we should do Manson again. We should do a full video on Manson.
Probably a good
If
idea.
you do, I'm watching it.
All right.
Perfect.
Good to know.
The Castman 777 for 1,000 yen says, I found a more plausible theory on Bart Schleyer. Curious if you guys know this story. He was murdered by drug traffickers because apparently he died on a drug drop site. Either he was involved or he was simply at the wrong place at the wrong time.
What a weird drug drop site.
Yeah. Where was this again?
Reed Lakes in the Yukon.
Yeah.
Are you saying that it was a drug drop site? Like you verified that? Or like you think it was a drug drop site because of what happened?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because Cass, if you're thinking that if you have like, if you've established that is a drug drop site, then that's actually a very good idea.
Yeah.
You will be visited soon.
But if you didn't confirm that, I would be shocked if anybody would pick that spot. I mean, granted, it's a lake where you can land a float plane, so.
Yeah, but it's just so what?
Apparently, Canada has some very potent green stuff.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I've seen weirder things.
True.
Fair. Kellen is noting that people are distrusting the government statements.
Yes.
Yep.
As one should.
As you should.
Yep. Interesting. Dow for $2 says, curious, what are your views on Matt Moneymaker, BFRO? I'm not familiar. You guys familiar?
I'm gonna have to look that up. Matt Moneymaker?
Yeah, Moneymaker is one word.
If he's making money, I want some advice.
Yeah, same.
Patrick McNeely gives me $10.
Founder and president of the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization.
Hmm.
I believe BFRO is the
Yeah, that makes sense.
Bigfoot one.
Patrick McNeely, I have to thank you directly for giving me $10 for the 7.3 Foundation and the haunting of the blown gasket and flattened lifters. I appreciate that very much. You have no idea. For the fellas in here who may not know, I may have I got a truck with a 7.3 IDI because the engine was supposed to be bulletproof. Apparently, I am an ICBM to engines because I absolutely destroyed it. Was not made aware prior to owning this diesel that you have to be aware of exhaust gas temperatures. And if you're familiar at all with diesels, you would know what happened there. So, new engine time.
Sounds like something, if it was me, I'd probably be dead.
Me same.
Yeah, it was. Apparently, when your exhaust gases get too hot, it can make the manifold too hot, and it can cause pre-ignition in your engine, which will then absolutely fry your pistons, your connecting rods, any of the bearings that exist in there. So yeah, I finished a particularly heavy haul with it. Brought it, once I was done with that, the engine sounded notably louder than usual, and that's surprising for a diesel that's already loud. So I brought it to a mechanic, and they pulled off the oil filter, and it looked very sparkly. And he was like, "Yeah, you're not doing well, bucko."
I went and got a Walmart oil change once, and they didn't put the oil plug back in. That was fun.
I feel like Walmart's not the place I would go to get anything done to my car.
No, don't get the whores at Walmart either. You'll regret it.
Brutal.
Good God. I go to, there's a little shop down the street that I go to. They've been good to me.
Go local if you can, always.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. The last relevant one here is from Sweeney Fam for $2 that says, my son saw dinosaurs due to his stimulant.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I've got loads of dinosaur stories.
Really?
They're out there, boys. Oh, yeah. There was
Love it.
one where they were in this guy's, basically a small mansion while they were still building it. They let their son sleep in one of the near empty rooms, and that night he spotted plenty of dinosaur shadows in the hallway.
Interesting.
Bird.
Wild.
You
I wanted to be a
lock your
paleontologist
windows,
when I was a
dude.
kid. I wanted to study dinosaurs.
Who blames
Dinosaurs
you?
are awesome.
Yeah.
Those
Dinosaurs
people-
are sick. I
those
was a
people
dinosaur
who are
baby.
like, who dinosaurs are another conspiracy theory, like aliens.
Oh,
made up
yeah,
by
of
the
course.
government. I want to punch them.
Oh, dude. Well, you got to know that the Masonic, Jesuit, Freemason Jews are hiding the dinosaurs because that
In
they are
Hollywood.
evidence of the flat Earth.
Yeah.
Because they're just mean, and I love dinosaurs.
I like that one better. It's they're hiding they're hiding flat Earth because they're big meanies. Like that's the only reason.
Birds.
They don't want you to know about the secret exclusive resort at the edge of the world.
Yeah.
It's just gatekeeping.
Yeah. It's just
some-
advanced gatekeeping.
All right.
Flat Earth stuff, man.
Well, let's get through the. Is that the last of the super chats overall, or just the last of the relevant ones?
The relevant ones.
All right. Well, how many are there that are irrelevant?
Probably like roughly a dozen.
Will they be quick?
Define quick.
They
We've been-
won't be quick.
We've been doing super chats for
Yeah.
an hour.
All right. So good point. So, do you guys want to just do these last few with us, or do you got to go?
I gotta get going. My kids
All
are
right.
stomping
I
downstairs.
figured that's why I wanted to ask. All right. So yeah, then I guess we'll let you two go, and we'll handle the last of these super chats before we head off. But guys, thank you so much for being here, and please hawk yourselves. Hawk
You-
yourselves to the audience.
Fuck twice.
Yeah. Either one of you.
Maybe he left. I'll go first, but Darkness Prevails. You can find me on YouTube. I read scary user-submitted stories, mostly about supernatural, the unexplained, and the occasional creepy person. You can submit stories to me at darkstories.org or go to eeriecast.com if you want to be paid for certain stories. And you can find any of my stuff on podcast platforms. If you look up EerieCast, I have books you can find on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Look up Darkness Prevails on there as well. And I've got a card game based on cryptids. So go to cryptidcardgame.com if you want to battle cryptids to the death.
That sounds fun, actually.
Yeah,
I might have to
100%.
get myself a pack of those.
Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome. And then Swamp Dweller, what about you, my guy?
Just search Swamp Dweller wherever on the internet. I'm around. Swamp Dweller Live if you want to see me meme on some, locales. And yeah, I exist. SwampDweller.net if you have a scary story. And I'm forever going to be the Walmart brand Darkness Prevails.
I
Darkness
love
Prevails locale series coming soon.
I love
Very
that you have a .net.
Yeah, you got to
Incredible.
keep it affordable, brother.
Yeah, I was going .org forever, man, on my submission sites.
Yeah, you gotta go .biz. That's how you know that it's definitely a real American website by real American patriots.
Oh, I set mine up as .sus.
Cuts sus.
Even Archie's disappointed.
No, he's so proud.
All right.
Damn.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here. This was a lot of fun, and I'm gonna need if you could send me an ebook of that that book you got, Darkness. I would love to do some content about it so that we can push some sales for you.
Oh, I'm up for it. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for having me on, and you have a good night.
You too.
Likewise.
See you guys.
Cool.
All right.
Swap
Switch
over
us
to the
over to
regular.
our normal setup. Oh my gosh. Hi guys. What do you know? Wow.
All right, and we'll
All right, let's kill the rest of these super chats and then I can go write the rest of the Brandon Lawson episode.
Yeah. Let's see. Kellen for $10, thank you, sir, says, "Please, Lodge Fathers, bestow upon us the milk of the lore. We crave it."
Well, I guess we did that.
We did in fact do that. Nove42 for $2 says, "Eagles 3752, if you know what I mean."
What?
I don't know.
Wait, what's 3752?
Is this relevant to the game yesterday?
No, because it was 3717 yesterday. What's he talking about?
While you look into that, Ryan Whitcup for $5 says, "Gentlemen, so glad to be back. Finally settled in at my tech school after BMT and able to catch a stream. Been missing it. Ryan, I have a specific question for you. Have you been able to watch our videos / just generally anything since you went back to school? Because we have a current theory
Yes.
as to why video views are down right now, and it's because it seems a decent chunk of our audience are still of school age, and thus have not been able to watch as much content due to being in school, which we support
Yeah.
because school comes first. We're just generally trying to figure out why our views are down. In that specific
been weird.
corollary percentage.
Like this last Friday's video had to crawl its way back into the algorithm.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Did you figure out what Eagles 3752 means?
I did not.
Fair enough. What do we got?
Be a good Bible verse.
Aiden, the Irish one, for $4.99, saying
Both
the
of us.
lodge kept me sane driving my girlfriend from Minnesota to NOLA and back.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Aiden's.
Oh, you poor soul. That's such a long drive.
Brutal.
But I'm glad that we kept you sane.
Yeah. The shocking that we kept you, well, I guess because we are insane.
Yeah.
So it keeps everybody else sane by, comparison.
Insane in the membrane.
Insane in the membrane. What else we got?
Got that one.
Yep.
JMO retracted a message.
Yep.
I'm scared. Okay.
We didn't read that one for 10:03.
The milk will be your armor and protect you, he said. When you wander far, when the world has failed you, it will give you give you strength when
Wait.
you're broken, when you're lost, and roads seem never ending. The milk will be your armor and protect you.
Why did you write it as when the world has failed you?
Yeah, that had me a little. I can barely see that as is because my vision's that bad
Yeah, that's fair.
with glasses.
My man.
I need that LASIK.
Yeah, or just a new prescription at the
No,
very
because if I get
least.
the new prescription, I can't get LASIK.
Oh, right.
It's just expensive. Honestly, since
is.
we learned what we did about taxes,
You might be able to do it.
I might just end up doing it because we're gonna have to pay taxes on all that money anyway.
Yeah.
So we might just need to take an end of the year bonus to handle some things personally.
I'm okay with that. I might get some lenses or
Yeah.
the new computer.
Not obviously, I don't mean like we're gonna empty the account. Just like if I'm gonna have to spend $5,000 on taxes, I might as well spend some of it on my eyes,
Yeah.
my special eyes,
You're specialized.
my brand.
50 Shades of Grey was originally a Twilight fan fiction, so it would
Yep.
be 50 Shades of Vampires. Also, 9/11 caused 50 Shades of Grey to the unfortunately. Well,
Yeah, we know.
Yeah,
This goes back to Marx.
yeah, we've been down this rabbit hill many.
It goes all the way back to Marx. Marx caused 50 Shades of Grey.
Yep. Did Marx cause 9/11?
Yes.
Are we ever going to touch that?
I can go through it really quickly.
No. As like a video, like a proper video.
That would be a really funny like April Fool's video. How Karl Marx is responsible for 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure somebody's done it.
maybe. I don't know. I know people go back to 9/11, but who did 9/11? It was Al Qaeda, and Al Qaeda started because as the Mujahideen, and the Mujahideen started because they were fighting the communists, and the communists were there because of Lenin, and Lenin was communist because of Marx, and the Germans sent Lenin to Russia. So.
But what caused Marx?
A below room temperature IQ.
Incredible. Canceled.
Like, guys, working is hard. Dude never actually had a job. Did you know that?
Really?
Marx never had a real job.
How did he not have a job?
He had rich friends who supported his lifestyle. Ironic, isn't it?
This is starting to make sense now.
Yeah, I don't like Karl Marx.
Yeah.
It's not even a communism thing. It's specifically Karl Marx.
Yeah.
Like I'll discuss the economics of communism with people. I disagree with them, but there's a discussion to be had. Marx was just a stupid person, and Engels was an enabler.
Incredible.
He went to the like coastal Carolina of PhD programs in Europe. He went to the Arizona State University of PhD programs.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Moving swiftly along, JMO for $2 says, Matosi's spookiest story was Ben. Oh, yeah, we got that one.
Yeah.
Got that one. FYI, there are some realistic looking furry suits for $2 from
I don't
Vampire
want
Pluto.
them. There shouldn't be. You don't seem to understand the problem.
Yeah. Oh.
What?
Swamp Dweller just commented saying, I went to Coastal Carolina.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
This is what happens. This is what happens when
Well, you
make
did
me-
better than Mark's.
This is what happens when you say mean jokes. You hurt our friends.
I know.
Barrel Racer 12 for $5.32 says it's not babysitting if they're your kids. That's called being a parent. Debatable.
I don't know what we were talking about.
That was Darkness Prevails.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about yeah. I think am I getting the stories right?
I think so.
Beck one for $5 says something we already covered. Tyler Dalrymple for $4.20. Nice. Is there a premiere date for the pod with Tuskegee?
Not yet. Probably going to be 2025,
Most likely.
just so you guys know.
Yep.
We're trying to give ourselves a little bit more buffer on this one. We also want to shoot some promo stuff. So there will be some like clips coming out.
Yep.
There will be maybe a segment or two to build up some hype. But yeah, the first episode of the show will probably drop January 2025. Because the goal is to meet every like 3 months or so.
Yep.
And shoot 3 and then go on hiatus and then shoot 3 and then go on. Yeah.
You should see one every month. It's just they're produced.
Yeah. They'll be produced all at once and then they'll go up a month apart.
JMO is asking, how's Berserk going, Aiden?
Dude, I'm still getting through Heiser's stuff. Berserk is on the list, but it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
Owie.
Owie, ouchie, my bones.
Yeah.
Bert Moran saying, man, I love the ghost creepy stories. These are great.
Mm-hmm.
Asklor says, when you've been single for 10 plus years and that sleep pussy demon looking fine. We'll never get
Getting the
real. We'll never get
Getting
real.
the gun out of the basement.
Yeah, we'll never get real legitimate jobs after this.
No.
No.
I don't think I'd want one. I think I'd like go work for the park service.
Yeah.
I'd literally just go become a park ranger at that point.
You would turn into what was his name?
Steve Irwin.
No. The park ranger from the
Paul
story we
Fugit.
covered. Yeah, Paul Fugit. You would become Paul Fugit.
Yeah.
What else? Kellen saying, send me the details on Discord for the haunted house, please. I could be in the market and it sounds like it's cheap. Incredible.
It's not cheap.
No.
I promise you it's
enough.
not cheap in that area. Find the Zestimate while you look for the last of the questions.
estimate.
It's
Got all
cold.
these.
It's too cold in this studio right now.
Yeah. It's probably haunted.
Let's see, for sale. All right, what do we got? We're gonna scroll. in.
Emerald Queen gave us treat dollars for Archie and friends, humans
Aw.
included.
What a guy.
Ticker.
Oh, they moved the label for Devon to the north side of Lancaster. I don't like that.
That's weird.
I hate it. It should stop. Okay, here we go.
Castman for 500 yen saying, how do I submit a story to your guests? I have
Oh
stories.
yeah, it's the Zestimate's almost $1 million.
Yeah, shocker. I have stories of ghosts I've encountered in Japan. I saw 2 twin ghost girls like from The Shining. Interesting. I would imagine if you wanted to submit a story to either of our guests, Swamp Dweller, if you're still here, do you have like a email link in your bio? I would imagine they both have email links somewhere. on
I
their
think you said
channels.
swampdweller.net and eeriecast.com
Yeah,
were I
Probably.
think the 2 websites.
yeah, probably good options.
Oh no, actually that one's listed for $646. Well, the Zestimate is for $646.
Matt Keen for $4.99 saying, I actually sent a story into darkness a couple years ago about my near-death experience. Interesting.
Interesting. Did he take it?
It would seem not.
I was right. That was 1929 that it was built.
Wow.
It lasts. Oh, so this is weird. This is really weird.
Tell me.
That house was sold in 2004. It was then listed for sale again in 2011. I don't remember anybody living there. The listing was removed. So basically, according to the price history, it was sold in 2004 and not sold again until 2015. So this actually makes sense because it sounds like it was bought and nobody lived there. and then they tried to sell it a few times, and nobody would buy it. They tried to sell it in 2011, removed the listing in 2012, listed it for sale again in 2015, and then it stayed on for several months until it finally sold in October. It sold at, oh my God, 50,000 below asking in 2015.
Wow.
Since 2015, at least 2 families have moved in and out of that house.
Yeah, that's
So
wild.
it sounds like somebody bought it, tried to rent it out, nobody would stay, sold it, that person rented it out, and now nobody will stay.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Really creepy.
Patrick McNeely for $10 says, if we're doing spooky stuff, then when are you guys going to do Shades of Death Road?
The what?
The Shades of Death Road.
Okay.
Gonna look into it.
Looking up more things.
Bacon Snake 64, amazing username for 109, says EGTs sounds like airplanes with their engines. Speaking of jet engines, has anybody seen Whistling Diesel's new video? Because that was entertaining.
I have not.
It's fun. He puts a military jet engine in the back of a like really tiny pickup truck from like Taiwan, and they like max out the speedometer.
Oh, good.
It's amazing. It's like one of those like flat fronted, really tiny like putt little like pickups.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, this is weird. Yeah, it's Shades of Death Road. Like, that is the name of the road, is Shades of Death.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh, great. It runs alongside Jenny Jump State Forest.
Oh my gosh. It's relatively close. We should go there.
Yeah, we could do a couple of videos on haunted roads, because we got whatever it's called, like the Devil's Road in Chad's, is that Chad's Ford? Where that is?
I don't know.
It's down near Delaware, if I remember correctly.
It's close enough.
It's near one of the DuPont properties.
Beavaboo for $5 says, in my opinion, your recent videos are less about mysterious events than before.
Another Shades of Death Road exists in Washington County, Pennsylvania.
Oh, of course. Beavaboo says for $5, in my opinion, your recent videos are less about mysterious events than before. The last video seemed more like the lore lodge I first followed.
Yeah, part of the problem is that I don't know if a case is going to be as mysterious as it's supposed to be until I do it. Until I do the research. And sometimes they just come out to not be that spooky. So I think when we do the next cluster, it's going to be Pennsylvania. I'm going to triage it first. And in the intro video, I'll probably present the cases that aren't that mysterious. In short form, be like, yeah, if you look at the whole cluster, these ones are actually totally explicable, just, without even going through the story. There's no mystery whatsoever, so we're just going to get those out of the way. And then we'll focus on the mysterious ones. But yeah, I mean, it's part of the reason I think that some of the videos that got a little stale could have been more entertaining had I taken the route of presenting David Paulides' version of the story first, and doing it in a really intense, dramatic narrative way. I didn't want it to turn into this is why David Paulides is wrong show. So I didn't do that. I'm realizing now that might have been the better way to go with those.
So maybe for the Pennsylvania cluster, we might do that.
We'll see. I might write one and see how it does. I thought about doing that with the last 2 for this cluster, actually, just as an experiment. The problem is that, as I said, Open Library is down, and I have not purchased a copy of Missing 411 Eastern United States because I've been using the Open Library one, and I thought that would be back up by now. It is not. So I might have to go buy the book.
Fair.
Which sucks, because it's nice using Google's search page tool to just copy text, so I don't have to type in the quotes myself.
Yeah.
I'm lazy.
I would
lazy
imagine
boy.
there's an online PDF version.
Yeah, but then no, actually.
Really?
On Open Library?
There's not like a Kindle version?
No.
Interesting.
David really wants you buying those hardcovers.
Well,
I mean, it makes sense.
yeah, it definitely does. Mr. Sleepless Owl for $2 says, loved your personal video, Thornberry. More, please. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know if you Where
I saw you did some.
I did. Yeah, I did. Did you?
Is the Peterson Dawkins?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ended up. I watched it after we finished here one day
Mhm.
last week, and I watched it. Well, I got stuck on the phone with my mom for 2 hours, finished the video, and then came here at 3 a.m. and shot that over the course of 2 hours.
All right.
Yep, I was just that motivated. And
Okay.
it was one of those.
How's it doing?
Got a few thousand views. Nothing,
Good.
nothing crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, just for those of you who are curious, it's my old channel from college before we ever even started this that I haven't touched in 6 years,
Yeah.
and I just recently changed it back because we're changing the Lore Lounge to a different email, and so I reclaimed that channel, and I just kind of got motivated to just do something with it.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's just
More money.
me ranting for an hour. So, no fancy editing whatsoever, because there was no way I was spending that much amount of time on that, especially when we have this job to focus on
Yeah.
first. So,
That's where all the money comes from.
yep. So if you want to hear me rant, go
That's
ahead
where you
over.
can do it.
It's
And then
SEC1N.
I see that last comment. Matt Keen said, yes, Darkness read it. That's cool. That's got to be
Sweet.
fun, sending in your story. And
Yeah.
now knowing that he tosses some of them in the trash right away and knowing that didn't happen to yours.
Yeah, that has got to be nice. Also, Romulus, I'm not seeing a previous super chat from you because he just sent one in. Yeah.
Yeah, Romulus, I'm not. Here, go back through it really quick. Da-da-da-da. Are you sure you sent it?
Oh, wait, here we go.
there it is. He found it.
You guys should have looked into the time 6 on
Into having.
into having time 6 on during this episode as well. He mainly narrates 4chan stories and spoopy spaghetti.
So I reached out to a few different people. I did not hear back from everybody. Some people said no, that they were just pre-engaged and couldn't. But that's good to know in the future. I kind of want to start doing this maybe every Halloween
That'd be fun.
and figure out, a way to make it like new and fun each year. But
Yeah.
just to talk, maybe have people come on and read, one of their favorites in a dramatic reading style. Like, I don't know what we'll do, but maybe shoot a special one that's not going to be live, but that'll include multiple people. We'll see. But let's see. Also, Gom said, I sent one before the chat, for the show. Yes. Since the Yule lads soon be a knocking, keep your windows closed or they'll be dong blocking. Oh, boy. But not to block that sweet Wendussy, honey. That which is more than any amount of money. Wendussy. Oh, boy.
Don't you love your job?
So Rocky said, first time here and first time super chatting. Thank you. What does that say? Have you heard of the Beast of Gavaden? Yes, I have. When we get around to doing a video on werewolves, I will absolutely hit that. The reason that I have not done a video on werewolves is that every time we do a video that is solely folklore, the algorithm just spits it out.
Yep.
So I will have to find a story where I have the time to research a missing persons case that has something to do with werewolves so that I can do a werewolf episode. Because at this point, I just have to disguise half of our videos as missing persons videos so that I can tell you about folklore.
Yeah, pretty much, unfortunately.
But, all right. Well, I have got an entire script to write.
What time do you want to start tomorrow?
Well, I have to go get my haircut at 11:30.
Okay.
So after that,
That's fine. It gives me some time to work on this week's video in the morning.
probably, I'd say like 1 is probably a safe bet.
Okay.
Oh,
I know. I'm
So-
right there with you.
I promise you guys, I wanted so badly to do a history segment for this one because it's the Comanche. The area is the Comanche. I do not have time.
Yeah.
We'll see exactly like how fired up I get tonight. Maybe I'll pull it off, but sadly, we'll probably not have a history segment this week. But
To be fair, we haven't had one.
yeah, but I did one this week and it was nice.
That's true. No, it's always enjoyable.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching, for hanging out. It has been very real. We appreciate your presence. Please go check out, if you haven't, Swamp Dweller and Darkness Prevails channels. They both are phenomenal at what they do, and I would highly recommend getting Darkness Prevails book. I'm gonna get myself a copy, whether he sends me one or not. And I'm thinking that might be some fun Patreon content.
100%.
Just reading through some of those stories, and then when I run out of those, I can have you guys send me your own. Bring back Lore Lodge story time with a touch of House MD.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Nice.
Also, just out of curiosity, go ahead and comment which you'd prefer. Not chat, comment. We are looking at bringing one of 2 new Patreon shows in. Potentially transferring one to a different. Actually, I'll just be upfront about it. We're gonna be probably bringing in 2 new shows. One will go on Patreon. One will go on a streaming service owned by some very fun boys. If we are successful in getting added to it.
Yep.
So, which would you prefer to be the Patreon one? Would you prefer to see Aiden and I? Actually, you know what? Yeah. Would you prefer to see Aiden and I go to haunted houses and haunted locations and do ghost hunts? Or would you prefer to have us diagnose what various stories were?
Personally, I think, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it works out most if the Patreon one was the house one.
You think?
Oh, yeah, 100%. You don't?
No.
Really?
I think the other way around is personally.
Interesting. I feel like the reason I would go for Patreon with that one is because you can do that in a lot more a simplistic way.
You think that's more simplistic?
Single location, single day of like doing a few skits. I don't know how in depth you were were we planning on trying to like frame for frame match the style of house?
No.
Well, then exactly. That's going to be way less complicated than going on location to a variety of different places and essentially hiring crew to follow us around.
Wait, I'm sorry.
For the ghost hunts.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, is those should be the other service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. That should be.
No, I think we were just miscommunicating.
Yeah. House
okay,
should be
no.
on Patreon.
You said Patreon, I think, at first.
Yeah, I said the House MD should be on Patreon.
Ah, okay. Now I see. Yeah, okay. We're on the same page.
Yep.
So, comment which of those you'd rather see.
This is why we can only do one video a week.
Yeah. My brain is currently fried. Anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out. It has been so very real. And we will see you not on Monday.
No, because we will be in the depths of the Smokies getting that good on the ground research for y'all.
Yes, we will be finding the tree people.
We will be. We may not survive.
I am going to find the tree people of Appalachia, and I am going to introduce them to the word of God.
You know,
I'm going to convert the tree people.
You're following the steps of your ancestors well.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do.
It is.
I will bring the gospel to the people of the trees.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. And if they do not accept me, then I will rule over them as their king.
The Fourth Crusade, everybody.
The fourth?
Seventh, whatever.
How many crusades do you think there were?
Not a clue. I know about 3, and that's it.
Honestly, there's no good answer to that question, but there were at least 4.
Incredible.
All right. Anyway, thank you guys. So that's a question we can answer on the next show.
There we go.
The new show. Yeah. Well, how many crusades were there anyway? All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for stopping by the Lore Lodge. I'll see you next time.
Good night.